Hello and welcome to episode 221 of the FReality Podcast. We are reporting in from the wet and windy coastline of VR's Stormfront to bring you an entertaining podcast every 2 weeks. I'm a little hoarse due to lots of hugs squeezing the air out of my lungs all week, but that's not going to stop the show. On today's menu, we have Vive's baby turtle trackers are just adorable. Game Developers Conference in San Francisco was a boisterous bunch of nerdy nutterbutters. Rowdy Science is going to learn you good about Chat GPT 4. And parties like SVVR's XR VIP mixer are not to be missed. Hot diggity. After that, Adam's stepping in to give a speed read of releases later on in the show. And we always like to hear from chat, so please give us a shout, drop a question, or tell us what you've played and what's eating your free time up. We have a three-part crew today, as Jose is away playing the role of Mad Max and gonna get across the desert with his Reboot Imagine team with plenty of cool tricks in tow, heading on their way to a world-changing event in Las Vegas. More about that next podcast. All right. He's already gotten Chat GPT 4 to write Chat GPT 5, and so by the next episode of this podcast, this scientific mastermind will have bots doing all our jobs, and we'll be doing nothing but sipping GNTs and VRing until dawn. Say howdy, it's Rowdy.
Hello everyone. Yeah, I see some comments in the chat already about my beard, but it has grown out a little bit.
Just a little beard. It's
like I've been gone. Like, I mean, it's been 4 weeks since I've been on the show, right? So it's been a month. Yeah. So like a thing about me is that my hair grows really quickly. I said it to Sim as well. Like I have that. Like if I don't go to the hair cutter in like 2 months, I look like a Yeti. You know, like it's pretty insane. It's only on my head as well. It's kind of weird, but
I was gonna say you gotta take that. You gotta show us both ways because it's coming out the top and the bottom. Oh man, It's just amazing. But yeah, Rowdy. Indeed. So you've been gone, and it was funny because like, Rowdy, you missed that one show, and then like the next weekend, I'm like, hey, you back yet? You're like, oh, I'm at another one. He's like jumping from conference to conference. How was all of that? You got any highlights from that, or?
I mean, it was amazing. Like the first conference that I went to was more like in my kind of field. But then when I was there, like I said to Carol, like maybe we should explore a little bit, see if there's other conferences maybe related to the field. So I went to actually 2 machine learning conferences, one AI conference, one machine learning, and then one conference more about like data science and like data analysis. So they were all like very, very related kind of conferences. But it was very cool to mix with these people as well, because they, the machine learning field, I mean, we'll be talking about it today. I have a little presentation about it. It's not going to be very sciencey, but it's going to be very interesting, I think, because this field is exploding at the moment. So there's so much stuff going on and this kind of stuff, and I got some cool stuff that I got to try out and that I got to play around with. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's been great. You know, it was all in Canada, so I haven't really left the country. You know, Canada is huge. I realized that when I was there, and we went to the Rocky Mountains even for a day. Yeah, it was kind of amazing to see that as well.
That's like touching grass, Rocky Mountain style. That's nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Oh man. Well, glad to have you back, Rowdy, and looking forward to learning a little bit later on. Very good, very good. Well, I finally got to meet your favorite lass in person over a salad the size of the Empire State Building. She said, "Zim, you've got to get out there and just live your life." And I've got to say, in real life, she's an impressive gravity well of party planning and knows what is and isn't a worthwhile gathering. So how's your recovery going, Adam Bombardi?
It's rough. I'm not gonna lie. I think all of my voice has recovered since I had about a day in between. But man, it was pretty much. So I flew in. I'm not gonna go too much into GDC just on my general trip and all that. But yeah, I flew in Monday. Left Friday. It was, I think, a drinking event happened like every day of the week last week. So it's probably Thursday before I went on my flight was the worst. But the worst, not as in, it was super fun and I loved it. But man, I think I overdid it a little bit on the last hurrah. But it was no regrets though, right? It was super fun getting to meet everybody. But otherwise, before GDC, again, we'll get into that a little later. I finally got to play Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners 2 or the PC. Yes, finally. So I was really happy about that, and of course, Switchback that came out around I believe in the same week. So I got to play 2 games that I've been looking forward to for a little bit, and that made me happy. And then I had to leave, so I was like, okay, well, it's short-lived, but I plan on getting back into that once I'm more fully recovered.
And as a Walking Dead fan, like, how did you find the second one? Because this is your first time touching Chapter 2, right? You didn't get a chance to touch it before.
I didn't do the Quest version at all. I was waiting for, Steam. But I have it on the PlayStation VR 2 as well. So I'm tempted to I might bring my save into the Steam one to just continue on my blueprints. But then for fun sometime, I might actually play it on the PSVR 2 just to appreciate all of the, the OLED and the blacks and, see if there are any difference. And because I do kind of like the I don't know. That was a tough game for me to decide on which one I wanted to start with first. So.
That's a tough one. I heard something in a dev chat that they may even be able to do cross-platform game save.
No way.
And if they can do that, that's both incredible and I hate myself because I've reformatted a PC since then. I do not have my original Chapter 1 game save at all. It's blown apart into bytes and dust or whatever. And it's like, God damn, because you work really hard to get some of the recipes in that game. Like I remember one run where I escaped on a sliver of health with nothing but a kitchen knife left on my belt. And I think I broke that in a zombie. I shoved a zombie, then I got to the boat. It was like I was about to die. And it's like to go and do that again. But yeah, the look and feel, I played a little bit of Chapter 2 as well. Man, the look and feel on PSVR 2 is amazing. Just that OLED panel is like, mwah, it's so good. I was saying to people on the show floor actually at GDC about it as well, because like there's like lights that are flickering, like a broken bulb or whatever. And when it sparks at you, I've never looked at a light in a game and had it hurt my eyes. It hurt my eyes to
Don't
see
look
it
in
spark.
the sun, Zim. Don't look in the sun.
My wife was like, "Do I smell eggs cooking?" And it's just my eyeballs. Yeah. That's lovely. But anyway, yeah, we're starting to get some really great games kind of landing, and man, they feel good. So glad you made it, Adam. I feel like I've barely made it out alive as well. So we're here to recount our tale, talk a lot about GDC later, and learn some lessons from Rowdy later on. So I'm curious if chat have anything to say to us. I'm going to take a look there now. Welcome everybody. Thanks for reminding to come back every 2 weeks to hear a little bit from us. All right. What do we got? I've got
more Saints and Sinners Retribution on PCVR and Sons of the Forest, which I'm not going to go into here, but if you want to hear my opinions on it, I made a not great Steam review.
That's the follow-up title,
That's
is it?
the follow-up one, yeah.
Okay.
It's still in early access. That's the one they actually delayed, I believe, like twice. And after, no spoilers, but after playing it, I can kind of see why. Oh. And I've gone dark, but I'll fix it.
Yeah. And we did get that confirmed. So Pepsi Cat in chat has said any Chapter 1 game can export and be imported to any Chapter 2 version. So you can literally do cross-platform game save import. Wow, that's
sweet.
Incredible. Wow. Okay, I've never heard of that in any game, let alone in the VR space. So that's great. Eric was saying Not for Broadcast and Go Signal have both been taking up some of my time. Thanks for the recommendation on Go Signal, Zim. Well, that's a good place for me to pivot into my highlight, which is by Fast Travel Games. I feel like Fast Travel have tried a number of games, and they've all, for me, kind of been decent, but none have won my heart until now. Go Signal, a Stellaris game, is basically faster than light, very similar to Narrows, what we had on Go, which I was a huge fan of. Captured, in my opinion, perfectly, which is now available on Quest. For me, it's a Quest Game of the Year so far.
Wow.
I know we're 3 months in. It is absolutely fantastic. I could not put it down. I had my headset, ran through to play, the whole way through, then went through a whole battery. I played a daily campaign, getting all the way to beating the mission. I had about 24 or like 30 different like weapon modifiers, updates. You can just keep adding. It's not limited. It's incredible. And they give you a pet space dragon to help you. So you're basically in this space-based kind of FTL equivalent in VR. You also have an ability for hand tracking in the game, which is pretty cool. I haven't played with that so much, but the FTL component is really neat because you're moving in three-dimensional space, hiding behind asteroids, blasting asteroids to get money. And at the same time, you're taking on these like mega space bosses in a colorful space game with all kinds of enemies. It's quite challenging. I like my roguelites to be challenging, and this one is. But like the amount of Moorish like leveling up that you do to your weapons and your hull and all the different kind of bonuses to your ship, you got to be careful how you build so you don't screw yourself over in the late game. And it is just a beautiful little game. I mean, this is something that I recommend to anybody who's like, I want to sit down in my quest, not necessarily like standing room scale stuff, right? I want to sit down in my quest, just have your hands in front of you. It's a beautiful seated experience. And I will definitely be playing more of that in the weeks ahead because, man, I love that kind of FTL, like survive as long as you can feeling. And it's great to have a spaceship and, literally space dragons that help attack enemies on your behalf. And it's just, the whole thing is cool.
I didn't know that part. That might convince me because I'm not really like a rogue-like person. I get frustrated easily, but I do like the big, I don't want to call them monsters, aliens. Maybe is that the more appropriate term? The big creatures that they have in the game. But I didn't know you could have little like followers too. That's pretty.
Yeah.
Did you stream this? Because I didn't see you stream this, right?
No, okay. It was under NDA. I couldn't do it, and I was like, God damn, this is so good. You know me, Rowdy. I almost never play stuff offline. It's I save it, like even on the show floor, like at GDC and stuff. Like I don't play stuff first time. I don't go demo it and then play it for my audience. I just play it live, right? And this one, I was like, well, I'm gonna be away for the week. They're gonna launch. I'd rather know if the game is any good. And then I was like, God damn, this is my favorite Quest game of the year so far. Like, this is like really good. So yeah, definitely go Signal. Check it out on Quest if you didn't realize this was coming. It dropped on the 23rd, and it is a ton of fun.
Interesting.
The other thing for those who've been following my slow return to racing, potentially, I've been like, a GT7 dropped, and I was like, will I buy it? Will I not buy it? And I fucking caved, and I bought a disc version. So if I hate it, I'll sell it on, and it's going back. But I've got a stream of that planned for tomorrow. And if it goes well, I was playing some Assetto Corsa with a friend. There just before going out to GDC, and I was like, God, social racing is just something I have to have in my life. But I realized how much that Assetto Corsa looks like a 2014 game still, even with mods and add-ons and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not usually a graphics guy, but I need to give this a swing. So for all my fellow sim racers out there, if you are in North America, I'm going to probably be putting on a monthly race in GT7. So if you like that kind of stuff and you like a really good time, yeah, there you go. They've fish hooked me again. I feel like an alcoholic returning to the bar. But
sim racing is coming back.
Yeah, sounds like it. So there you go. And now we've got the news section. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. One of the things, and again, it's impossible to not have a quilt this time with GDC because the amount of crossovers was insane. The amount of people who I got to meet. I'll talk about that a little bit later, and I'm sure Adam will add hers. Sorry, Jose's not here, but he had to change his travel plans because of Las Vegas. But we'll hear from him next time. I met the Nightmare Tag dev who I was speaking about last time. So for Rowdy's benefit to catch him up, Nightmare Tag is it's like a horror experience, very much like Alien versus Predator, where it's a multiplayer, some players need to escape, the other players are chasing and hunting down those players. And I'm at the Nightmare Tag dev, and we're just talking away in a crowd, and then I traced my eyes down to his badge, and I was like, you're the Nightmare Tag guy. I just called you the
Nightmare Tag guy.
He's like, whoa. And I was like, one of those moments where like, oh, it's just great. And so here's another game that I found on Reddit and dug out. Gazlers, which we showed, which was kind of like a train/rail shooter, very colorful, almost like a Borderlands universe, which is made by Banzai Studios. They're prototyping a VR submarine game with pressure, release handles, and generally just an intriguing underwater experience. We haven't had too many like this. I remember there was a horror underwater experience. I'm trying to remember the name now. From a couple of Narcos or something like that, Narcosis, which was underwater, and you're like you're the embodying an astronaut or something like that underwater. Really weird. But this reminded me of those those levels in like Subnautica where you just feel the underwater sea terror. And this one has the kind of puzzling elements of like an I expected to die experience as well. So I really hope this studio, who's already shown that they can craft quality experiences, goes ahead with this. But what do you guys both think? Like, is underwater?
This sounds just horrible to me. Like I'm totally like, if there's something that scares me, it's like the ocean. Like even going on a cruise ship for me is like, like when you see, like I said it, I was yesterday in a bar and we were talking about something, and we were talking about like innate fears of humans, and for me that's definitely like the ocean. Because if you see like a cruise ship in the harbor, it's massive, it's absolutely massive. You have all those different floors, you have so many windows, it looks like it's basically like a giant hotel, right? But then when you like see it in the middle of the ocean and they zoom out, like it's like this little dots, and it's like just surrounded by this huge amount of water. There's no land in sight. That kind of stuff just terrifies me. Like,
Speaking of that, you've reminded me of something. Literally the day before, flew off to GDC. I put my wife into VR for the first time, and into the PSVR 2 for the first time. Not VR for the first time.
I was like,
and I thought, we're like, what's going to be a safe title? Because I was playing The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners Chapter 2, and she's like, I don't know, I don't like zombies coming at me kind of thing. We were both Left 4 Dead players, but you know how VR is like quite a bit more intimidating. So we're like, all right, give her a safe experience. So I put her in the Horizon demo. And, well, that went well for the first half. She was awed at, as robots were going around and all this kind of stuff. You get the giant walker. But I forgot she's terrified of water. And I had walked away. And so I come back to my wife, literally tears running like this. She's completely in shock because in that experience, mini spoilers here, they throw you in the water with a snap maw, which is like a gargantuan alligator underwater. And she freaked out completely. We have it on camera. I haven't clipped it and shared it yet. I wasn't even in the room. I was taking care of our children.
Bye. Good luck.
And I come back and she's like clearly shell shocked in a way that I've never seen her in VR. And it was like horrible. It ripped my soul out. But Rowdy, you just reminded me there because years ago we put her in Subnautica, and that open water thing, like when you're in there, she's completely terrified. Yeah. And so just a warning to others, if you're I will show this clip with her permission. Horizon can be a scary experience. Like she's there on the dock, your man gets eaten, and then the thing comes jumping at her. And the best part about it all is, their locomotion system that you were kind of complaining about, Adam, the
arm one running.
She couldn't figure it out, so she's like flapping her arms like a sea lion or something, trying to move. Like it was working, but it looked ridiculous. And then she's got tears running down her face, and it's like the whole thing was just very, very messy. So I thought I'd give
sad.
A word and don't do that to your spouse. Not a good oops. So that was that one, but that's
it's
hilarious.
Like Fluke Roach said, that's a reason for divorce. He threw me in a river with a robot dinosaur.
What more reason do you need?
Oops. Yeah. So that's the end of my marriage. And with that, let's speaking about water, right? Let's talk about streams. The superpowers that be went to working with Ninja, the infamous Twitch streamer, the one with the sickly green hair, to put on a showcase.
Is he still around? I haven't heard from that guy in ages.
Yeah, he did a couple of platform hops, and he's been pretty quiet since then. But he's actually back to doing his usual gig on Twitch. He kind of went away for a bit and then came back.
Interesting.
And like many of us do, I know Twitch is one of those hot and cold relationships. But it was interesting to see him showcasing Marvel's Iron Man VR game, which was also on the show floor at GDC. Meta had that showing. My initial reaction to this news wasn't very positive because it comes in tandem with the news since the last show of another 10,000 staff being laid off at Meta. So they're doing even deeper staff cuts. And last time we were lamenting about the kinds of ads that they were going after, like with Oreoverse and these kinds of things, just kind of being a bad taste at the moment with the staff layoffs that they've got. And so here's another one where, they're getting a big Twitch streamer to kind of cast their game. And my concern was really mostly about quality and the way a Twitch audience normally reacts when you show a Quest casted game after having seen, beautiful 60 frames per second, fluid motion, usual PC desktop, gaming, is usually not very happy about it. Chat usually gets their pitchforks out and start complaining, and that's exactly what happened. The stream itself was using quest casting. It was limited FPS. The worst part about it was that the audio balance was really off, which is a big no-no for any production at all. You couldn't even hear Ninja, and you could just hear these kind of loud, quite almost painful sounds from Iron Man. Iron Man streamed all right. He had some help on site. But the big question was, why wasn't Meta having Ninja show off Population 1? He's a Fortnite streamer. He's known for it.
And he says...
And the part that I couldn't... Go on.
Like, I feel like this about how Jose felt about the Ozzy Osbourne thing, except worse, because you're also going to highlight the negative parts of, casting on the Quest. So it's like, why wouldn't you just... I mean, I realize, yes, Ninja's a big name, and he's in, he might be the demographic that they might be looking for. But yeah, multiple things are wrong with this. Why is he not playing something that he might be better at? This is highlighting the fact that their casting streaming options are terrible. It's just, and he's probably, very expensive. Not that Ozzy isn't, but I don't know. It was just, there's just so many things about this that I'm like, what?
Yeah, the last thing they did was the live stream with Martha Stewart and the Oreoverse, which looked awful. It was a really poor way to watch it if you weren't in it with her. And then it was okay. It was on par with some of the streams that I run, right? And quality isn't my number one thing. It's more about entertainment. But the real concern I had was he started off his show in Fortnite. The first half of his stream was in Fortnite. And then he transitions to Iron Man. Had he transitioned to Population 1, it would have been a glove, hand in glove fit. So
but the reason why he starts on Fortnite is so that people tune in, right? That's why, because he played it for like 20 minutes or something, right?
It was
45 minutes roughly.
Yeah. He actually looked worse for wear a few times. He kind of popped out of the headset. I was wondering if he was experiencing a little bit of discomfort. And he had the usual thing where he's wandering around his room, he's off scene, all this. If you're not used to VR streaming, these things happen. Same thing like the audio balance. And I'm glad he had someone there with him, because I was worried, scene goes black, nobody in chat is able to communicate with him, and then for 40 minutes you get a black screen. Like that kind of thing can happen if you're not ready. So but it just felt like a Bollywood level mismatch about an arranged marriage where the guy or gal finds their heartthrob in another country and just wants to abscond against their family's wishes. Except in this case it was Ninja deep throating a banana for health in Pop 1. I'll take a cut of those movie rights.
Some people are saying that maybe it's because given how good he is at Fortnite, and if he doesn't really have VR legs, Population 1 may have been just a great showcase of him getting owned constantly by people,
failing.
but also getting sick. So I could see
point.
that. Yeah. They were bringing that up in chat, and I was like, oh, that's a good one. But you don't want to see Ninja be terrible, which is hilarious to me, but
he would
probably not his audience.
For sure.
I would have loved that though. I really would have watched that.
But we're not Ninja fans. Like we kind of want to see him do poorly, but I imagine the people that are actually watching him, they watch him because he's this competitive, really good Fortnite guy. So to see him kind of suck at something might be like, what is this?
It's kind of like an error on Meta's fault, then, because you're getting a Fortnite streamer who's only popular for Fortnite. I don't think I don't even know. Does he play anything else?
He plays other games. One of the things that I really like watching Ninja play is poker. He has poker streams, and sometimes he does poker with big names, and he's actually pretty good at that. He's quite entertaining. He's a good guy to talk around the table, for example. So I don't feel like this stream really played to Ninja's strengths. It didn't play to Meta's strengths. And again, I just have to ask the question, like, how are you guys spending your money, right? I mean, you got a company, you want to survive, you want to do well. What we all want is we want people to be attracted to the metaverse world that you're building, and try to come and buy more headsets and I just don't see them picking the right titles for this. You could support indie devs with some awesome new titles. You could support your cash cows if you want, like a Pop 1 or a Beat Saber, but they're just not showing off the stuff that's really going to sell for them. And that's the reason I want to just keep highlighting it here, because they're big investments for these teams to be taking, and I don't think they're making the right bets. simply put. But speaking about bets, let's talk about tiny little turtles and baby turtle trackers from HTC Vive. There is a new series of tracking mounts that they used to have this kind of like 3-part tracking puck, very oddly shaped, that you would have to kind of Velcro to your body in a few different places if you wanted, and was reliant on base station cameras to track you. So outside in tracking. But what about, Vive have now come out with trackers that are kind of like a smooth little puck. Again, I like to think of them tracking little baby turtles as they spawn and clamber down the beach. And you can have about 5 of these working in the same VR system. They clip very easily. They've got a UNC mount, like that 1/4-inch jack that we're all used to as content creators, that general screw, so that you can very easily clip into various mounts, track your elbows, your legs, your feet, that type of thing. But the beauty is that these little pucks have tracking cameras. So they are self-tracking trackers, which is wonderful because not only will they track themselves, meaning you don't need base stations or that kind of setup, but you can also use these on non-Vive headsets, which totally opens the market for these trackers. And somebody like my wife, who's currently modeling a VR chat character, could have a future where she's got some self-tracking trackers and have legs brought into the experience, so you get full model, even though her main is like a Quest 2. So that's pretty neat. Now, I was curious. I didn't get a chance to find a demo either. I think it was off show floor in hotel rooms. Adam, did you get a chance to?
I was supposed to be there, but I think they forgot to push my name on, so I didn't end up making it in time. But I'm really interested in these. Like, I don't personally use my trackers a lot. I'll use them at work occasionally and in VR chat, but like one of the biggest videos on my channel is getting trackers to work with a Quest 2, which I feel bad because like you can get it to work, but you can't expect the quality that, with having you pairing it with something like a PC VR headset.
How does that even work? Is that software trick? Because you have the base stations and you're using Steam. I'm
so
curious how the Quest and the trackers are. Yeah, how are they talking to each other?
There's an app that you can get to sort of to calibrate it. So like I usually run it through virtual desktop, or it can be on Steam. The name escapes me because they all sound like OVR, everything. But you basically you calibrate each tracker by doing like a figure 8 motion, so it's getting sort of all sides of it. But the problem is because like I always tell people, you want at least 2 base stations, but I feel like a lot of the Quest people want to see if they can get away with 1. And it's like, okay, but if you turn around, you're going to have to, like, there's a lot of recalibrating that you're going to have to do if you try it this way. And even things like the Quest going to sleep, that could, or taking off your headset, putting it somewhere else, like that can, there's so many factors that can mess up the calibration that I would really only do it if you were like, you're in VR chat, like, all the time, and you just really are determined. Otherwise, it's not the best, but it's doable. But I don't really recommend it.
But yeah, this definitely sounds like it's going to cut out a lot of pain for people who use those existing trackers. And
yes,
hey, if Zuckerberg and his team aren't going to give you feet anytime soon, well, here's your shortcut.
They're going to give you legs, but no feet.
Yeah, that would be hilarious if that happened. We end up footless. Oh man. So that's Vive's new thing that's coming out later this year. But no price has been announced yet for these, so I'm curious about that. And the runtime is meant to be something like 3 or 4 hours, which should be enough for your average session, I would think.
I've heard, and I won't say who I heard this from, but they're going to be significantly more expensive, it seems like, than the current trackers.
Because the new one, they're like $90 or
$100 for one puck. I was told that these are going to be upwards from there. Again, not 100% confirmed, but I was told it's going to be a pretty significant increase in price for
probably
these.
Probably $150, $200 per puck. Yeah, it's probably. I mean, the thing is, if you look at for example, the Quest Pro controllers that are self-tracked as well. I mean, having that, they need. The thing is, they need a brain, right? They need a brain. They need the processing. They need the cameras. That's going to lift the price significantly. So. Yeah, interesting to see it. But I like the design. I think it's a nice design. It's the only thing on the market that's really like this. And you can tell it's a pivot off of their Mars tracking system, which is used for cinematography, tracking of cameras in a virtual scene. They use that on like Star Trek TV shows and stuff like that. So really interesting tech. Super. So I wonder if this will be more appetizing then to producers like television show producers than at home, depending on where the price point comes in. Cool. Very good. Well, another bizarre turn of events. Meta have opted to launch Oculus Publishing from Meta, which, from what I've heard, is essentially a revenue share system in simple terms. Meta gets some money on titles as a trade for publishing tools and clout, but this blog announcement and the previously published title sizzle reel that they gave just strikes another odd emotion with me. I don't know. Meta keep kind of surprising me in a way, and then going like, what are you guys doing? To me, it's a completely nonsensical decision to call it anything but Meta Publishing.
Why?
You can't call it Quest Publishing because it ties you to a specific headset line. Oculus was already something they decided to divest from. Why are they bringing it back now? Right? It really just makes me upset. So, do you guys have any idea why this makes sense? Like, why would you call it Oculus?
Especially because it's meet Oculus Publishing from Meta.
They already killed off Oculus Studios, right? Yeah. So, like, why are they bringing this back from the grave? If they were going to publicly say, you know what, for all of our VR branding, we're going to go back to Oculus. We've heard it. People still want that. We're going to switch back. If they did that, I'd be totally fine with that decision. But because that is not the lead here, and they're saying, we're going to hang on to something, we're going to announce something that isn't new, it's just a branding for something to try to get our word out there. It's just another way for them to get money, really, from developers who honestly need the publishing or the tools or the road to get their game out. I get it, but that didn't not exist before. This has existed already. They've published those titles. So why? I haven't been able to answer that in the last 3 days. I have no idea.
Have in chat, the thought was the first party is still Oculus Studios. So Oculus Publishing is their third party support. So they didn't kill off Oculus Studios yet. So sort of like Oculus Start, Oculus Launchpad. But I feel like these are still things that should have been thought out before, or like.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
What I was referencing there is several years ago they kind of slashed and burned a couple of the Oculus, the first party studios that they had. So they had done all those kind of like tilt brush esque titles. What was it called? Quill, for example, the team who had done that. I remember they had cut that team, let them go. So not that they've killed it completely, but it is it's a problem. I see them investing in the wrong places. I see them making very odd moves. And I've said it last podcast, I want Meta to succeed. I think it's quite important for the industry that they succeed. And I just don't know. I feel like a headless chicken right now. So I'd like to see them do a little bit better at that.
Or a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Rowdy? You've seen the kind of full track of Meta, and we've worked with them closely before, but like what could they do to like turn the ship around a little bit?
I mean, they've gone too far, right? I don't think they can bring back now all of a sudden the name of Oculus, because it will always be tied to Meta. The way I still see Oculus is like the thing we had before Meta, right? It's not the same thing anymore. I think it's a Meta product, and they should just get rid of the name entirely, even if they have a studio that is Oculus Studios or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly, right? So all the still existing Oculus name should go.
Just because, not because
it's just confusing now.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's confusing, not because I don't like Oculus Studios, or not because it's just they made such a big thing of like changing the name, and then you still see the name on so many things.
I mean, the amount of times that I answered the question, looking at the Meta Quest Pro headset, who is this by? And in that conversation, you have to use the terms Meta, Facebook, Oculus, Quest. It just confuses people like crazy. They just don't understand it. They're like, I see a generic-looking black headset with no obvious branding on it. Do you remember the first DK1? It had Oculus in bold letters down the side. Yeah. People still remember that. So anyway, that's that. I did want to highlight as well, before we get into the GDC news, a quick trick that I thought was quite cute. Tyriel Wood showed off a really interesting thing that he tried out, which was he connected his PSVR 2 headset to his PC via a virtual link USB-C port, and it worked. So it was limited, but it also worked for me. I tried the same thing, and I was like, hot damn, I didn't even know that port was on my video card. I have an RTX 2080 Super that some years ago was gifted to me by a dev, and so thanks again for that. But there was this little dusty USB-C port, and I was like, let me give it a shot. So I plugged my PSVR 2 in, and what do you see? You see basically their cinematic mode displaying your Windows desktop. So you can then play you are in VR, but it is a flat in the void, again, feels like a 120-inch TV representation of your Windows desktop as an extra monitor. So I have, a dual monitor system. This becomes a third monitor, and you can just play a flat game in there if you like. And it was really interesting. I'm going to try to play some games in it because that panel, like what Adam was saying, is really attractive. So I'm going to try something like Doom Eternal, something with like very high brights and darks, and see how that feels. So I'll report back. But for anyone with both a PSVR 2 headset and a virtual link cable, fun little trick. Again, thumbs up to Tyriel for having tried that and tried it out. He's got a nice demonstration over on his channel of what this looks like, what you can expect to see in the headset. So that is the first inkling of like, hey, it could work, and so I hope we can work this out at some point.
So it's just like cinema mode, like for those of you or myself who have a PSVR 2, but for your desktop games, essentially.
Yes, and if you don't have a card, that supports this, I absolutely would say don't go buy a card just to get this working. It's not worth that.
Yeah.
But if you have a card with a port, it's worth trying. I can't believe Virtual Link is dead because they sunset it, but it's such a handy connection to have over one cable, lossless transmission through a single cord to your headset, which is why, again, this excites me a little bit because I'm hoping the hackers out there can find a way to get proper VR throughput to
on HDMI.
I don't know. Just like I really wanted to find a way. I mean, you can't. Maybe there's going to be a way that because the cable is replaceable, maybe there will be a way to change the transmission cable. You swap out a component of your headset and then play it on PC via, like you said, maybe HDMI, mini HDMI, one of these ports, and be able to, get it all through. But I don't know. I don't know how the controllers work in that respect because I don't want to be limited to gamepad experiences either.
We need Jose to like break one down, tear it apart, and like rebuild it, and then have it work through HDMI.
God.
Get on it, Jose. Yeah, when you're finished with Las Vegas, get tinkering. So that's a pretty cool trick. I don't know. Adam, what's your take on the PSVR 2 headset right now and PC? If you had the ability, even if it was a little bit tinkery, to do that with PC, would it be something you'd consider, or would you say, I've got my index?
Not really. I mean, currently as it is, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm missing out on much. The only reason I would want to be able to, and I was like, but I have a capture card for that. Like the only reason I would really want to connect my PlayStation to my PC, and again, like you said, this is coming from someone who's got an index, so it's not like I would really need to do this out of like PSVR 2 being the only headset I have. But I guess the only benefit I would see personally is just like easier, streaming, recording, whatnot, more options available, or even being able to play certain Steam VR games that aren't on the PSVR 2 yet using PSVR 2 hardware or like the lenses rather would be interesting. But I don't know. That's not a huge deal for me.
Yeah, it's not a huge jump. It's not really a huge jump if you think, because you're still on a corded 6-DoF headset with good clarity, with decent panels and colors. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen some people trying to tinker and get, index-like headphones, off-ear headphone solutions for PSVR 2. I think that'll come at some point. Yeah, Frankenquest it, essentially. Exactly. Cool. So with that, let's go ahead and jump to GDC 2023. So we're going to give you a quick roundup. Myself, Jose, and Adam, we're there, and we're going to run through a couple of categories about GDC. So first off, fantastic event, very well attended. You can tell that nerds take over San Francisco for the week. They're you can
Aren't
tell
they always there?
They are everywhere. It's amazing. And like every cab driver, restaurateur, all that was like, "Hey, you here for GDC?" Kind of thing, because they obviously smell it off you. So you're not cool enough. So I love that a lot. I just want to say thanks to Resolution Games, who previously sponsored the podcast a few times. They flew me out. I got to meet Tommy Palm, Defour, who's Dennis, Gustav, Fadi, Hedvig, and others. It was a really nice show to be part of. I was there to help them show off Spatial Ops locally on site, which is a mixed reality shooter that they have and is available on there. You can get that on SideQuest if you're keen to kind of have a Nerf war at home virtually with a couple of headsets. So we were showing that off, and that was fun to show. Had a really good spot on the show floor, just near Meta and right near the escalators as well. So it worked out really, really well. Also got to meet a load of other people. I'm going to call some names out just because for me, these events are all about people. And my God, I got to meet and see people who I was not expecting. First off, it was obviously Adam, and then the Live team. Went out to dinner with them. That was super good fun. I was expecting him to have green screens in tow, but strangely not. Jose and his
like
Reboot Imagine crew.
You know that one guy who does like these Zoom meetings on like weird events? He has this like laptop and like he has.
Was on a motorcycle or
whatever?
whatever?
Yeah, on a motorcycle. Like that's how I expected.
It could have been.
We just
so
have it attached
funny.
to us at the waist somehow. Live around.
This is the green screen behind you the whole time, going through life. So I got to meet, Jose, Amanda, Laura from kind of his team. That was really great. From content creator side, I had Creeper Betty, Jay Brat VR, Todd from QTC, Wes from Virtual Strangers. Been loving their like PlayStation cast. That was his only second ever show, so it was nice to catch him out. And obviously a rare one for him. But as I said to him, I was like, once you get this stuff into you, you're not going to stop, because these cons are like. It's just amazing, like a family reunion every time. Jasmine VR as well, complete nutcase. I thought she was going to be really like quiet and stuff. No, completely opposite. Soul Fox VR from Alabama as well. And then we had like Eric from QTC, who I'd met before, and Skiva as well, who just, bear hugs me, lifts me in the air like I'm a 6-year-old. And that always feels good. And also a little bit out of control. Like he's like a big, he like looks like a big Russian dude. He can just pick you up with one arm. And you're like, I'm a little boy again. So that's always fun. I love Skiva. He's such a good guy. I got to meet the entire kind of what I'll call the upload and X-upload team. So Ian, Reverend Kyle, I know he just goes by Kyle now. Jamie Feltham, David Jaggernaut as well. So the kind of upload stuff. I'd never met them before in person, so it was nice to see them. Alvin Grayland from HTC was there, who had just recently, kind of out of the blue, randomly added me on Discord as a friend, and I'm like, is this just someone trolling, or no? It's actually him. Chet Falazek from Valve and Left 4 Dead was just walking across the show floor, and I'm like, fucking hey, I love that dude. He's
my Steam friend, actually.
Is he? Oh, good man. Yeah. They've got a new game called Anacrusis. Again, it's a little bit like Left 4 Dead, and in the middle of that, there's a kind of zombie, basically that does like a flashlight. It just like blows out the entire scene, like almost like a flashbang, and you can't see. It's a really cool effect. So if you haven't checked out Anacrusis, do that. I also saw Jeff Keighley, from the Game Awards. He was just standing outside a pub when I was trying to find GDC, and I'm like, is that Jeff? It was like just standing there with a beer in his hand or whatever, and I was like, fucking hey, like you just start to see all these like star-studded folks, and it was amazing. Got to meet several of the meta team, the people who we always pick on, and speak to them firsthand from their MR and AR teams. So that was really good. And I hope that they learn a little bit from Resolution Games about their setup system, Guardian, and all that. Because, things like Space Pirate Arena are just too difficult to get set up. And I think they can learn, give us a like 10 by 10 or 30 by 30 square. That'd be really great. Got to meet the Synth Riders team as well. Got Hey Falcon, Hasko from so many years ago. I think it was 2019 or 2018 last got to meet her. The Toronto kids were in town, so that was Blair and Ashley from Titan Haptics. Got to meet VR Nima and John O. Thrill and Fia were there at the bar, and so we got to fist bump and stuff. I'd never met Fia before, so it was nice to talk to her about animating characters, because as I said, my wife's got a project doing that.
We had her on the show, though.
I know we did, I'd totally forgotten. I said we had her on the show, but I'd forgotten I was there, and I realized it's because I met her character avatar.
Right.
Her meat body.
Not meat body. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it, Adam. but yeah, meeting in the flesh was kind of really nice. They're actually really a adorable couple. Trilla and Fia together. You got the perfect like same energy, and so that was super nice. And then again from the dev side, Hamza, who previously made Poker VR, has a new kind of Quake-like game coming out called Shootout, which is really cool. Look out for that. That one's coming out, so that's called Shootout. And then from Ancient Dungeon VR, Eric Thulin, who was the solo dev who made that and now has a kind of team with him, got to meet him, and it was fantastic. And across the show floor, Joe Dunlap from Cloudhead, who Rowdy will remember from some of the show floor demos back at I think it was OC6 when they were showcasing Pistol Whip. She beat my arse at pool so bad. Man, do not put money on a game with her. She knows how to play pool. It was like you're like, all right, let's go, and then she sinks 5 balls in succession, and I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Got to meet their CFO Sarah. And they were teasing about as well a new game that they're developing, Rowdy. So keep an eye on this space because I can't wait for more Cloudhead games. They have wowed us before, And then the final, just to kind of cap it off, I finally got to meet Jerry Ellsworth of Tilt 5 and see their equipment again with a new multiplayer experience that they were showing. And they won me up. I do my Zim coin. Well, they've got their own fucking Tilt 5 coin now, which is this big metal thing. And I'm like, I got to up my game, man. This thing is great. Like, it's proper gold. I'll break a tooth if I try to bite it, but that's some real gold. Love that. So that was the people side for me. Adam, what about you? Who did you get to bump into, meet, any one of your dreams? I know you go to a lot of these more events than I do, so maybe you've got less on your checklist than I have.
Yeah, it was interesting because I say the two that I was probably three that I was looking forward to the most. Like you mentioned, pretty much like everybody and their mother already, but it was Blair or Anti-Cleric, lo-fi. Yeah. And it's mostly because I really wanted to, I had this joke in the back of my head. I really wanted to make fun and be like, oh, I thought you were a woman. Because, he gets that a lot because his name is Blair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was happy that I finally got to meet him. I got to meet Hey Falcon because we've been talking online for so long. And, he's in Australia, so that's like a million bajillion miles away. So, and I don't think he's also been out at an event in a long time.
Yeah.
So that was super fun. We actually we played Sandbox VR with him and a couple members of the Live team because it was like just down the street from the hotel that I was staying at. So that was super fun.
What is Sandbox VR? I don't think I know that one.
Yeah, it's like a not full body, but like just your regular VR arcade that's got, brain is not working with the words, but you've got like the full room to use. They use a haptic experience. Yes, location based.
Oh, right. So kind of like Void style gameplay. Oh, okay. I know them now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. They had a couple of places open in the States, but I think just like most places, COVID kind of hit them hard. But they're making a resurgence, so that's good.
What did you guys actually play? Just curious.
We played. It was one of their games called Deadwood Valley. It's a newer edition. I hadn't tried that one before. I think I'd been to a Sandbox a while ago, but it definitely it pushes the zombies on you real fast. There wasn't a lot of prep time on like, okay, here's how to do the things. And I really liked it because you got to choose which gun you went in before. And one of my favorite things, maybe I'll post it on Twitter or something if I haven't already, is the ending videos that you get. I should have set this to Rowdy. They'll send you an. No, I didn't. I don't think I posted it yet. But they send you a video at the end that's kind of highlights of different parts of your game. But it's not just a trailer cut with you. It's like actually it shows you in the game with your teammates and your names are highlighted on the back. And there's another one where they have like this kind of cheesy dance party thing at the end. But that's, that's whatever. But it's super, super fun. So if you haven't tried, one of those types of VR experiences before, I highly recommend, especially with people that like some of my coworkers I had already met. A couple of them were newer to me. But even Falcon, like, it was my first time meeting him, but we all just fit in so well. Like, it was just like we had already known each other for a while, but it felt like we had also known each other in person for a while. It was so nice. And Neolithic Dawn, the developer, we've been following each other on TikTok for a while. And so I finally got to meet him and that was super nice. But it's always great seeing, like all of the other podcast crews, the QTC guys between realities, Upload VR, everybody, the Bettys. I love Betty, of course. It's very comforting because at least when you go to these events, you'll know someone. So worst case, if it's like a bunch of people in suits and it's kind of like icky and financial or whatever, you're like, okay, I know who I can who I can drift over to. It's always nice. It's very, very welcoming. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah, I loved the photos that were taken of the three of us together. I think it was the only couple of photos, but it looks so chaotic and like it looks like a drunken, blurry bar photo. And then your face in one of them was just like
yeah, it's pretty much what it was. We went to DNA Lounge and it was the weirdest party I think I've ever been to because they had demo stations for VR, live DJ. You could buy pizza that was made in an oven. It was like, and there was loud music everywhere. It was insane. It was really just kind of an insane party. And that was the one, where we got our blurry 3-way photo. But it's good. We can't go too
polished,
too high quality because we need Rowdy for that. You know,
yes.
We need to get his beard in high definition one of these times with the four of us together in the same place, do a live podcast. That kind of thing would be super fun. So that's the people side of GDC. Thank you for everyone in chat who came by, gave a hug and all that. I don't think I've been hugged that many times in that short of space ever in my life. And I run on hugs, so that was so nice. It was just like it really, really did feel like a family reunion to some extent. And this is the first time since maybe 2018, 2017, since it really felt like the community part was more than the corporate or the, they're spending money to advertise whatever products and things. And it just felt like it was overwhelmed by the people. And I love that. That was a really good feeling. So with that, let's transition a little bit into maybe the software side. I mean, there was a lot on the show floor. GDC is kind of been split between some underground levels, and then you've got outdoor buildings as well. So you do have to kind of cross the street if you want to get to everything. There's panels, and there's way too much to go on than you could digest as an individual human being. And so it was my first GDC. I had not been to these before. It was packed. There were loads of people everywhere. But I would say that for me, in terms of the VR events and things that were on the show floor, I mean, having to try, for example, like Pico and stuff like that, that's like on the hardware side. I'll get into that. Software side, there was one gem that I wanted to call out, which at the moment is a location-based experience. It isn't for consumers yet, but they're targeting it. And it was kind of a weird demo. It was 3 Quest Pros in a booth from these guys called Eggscape. And it was a multiplayer experience, very much like a Lucky's Tale or a Super Mario platformer style game. But they had a physical diorama with some of the cutest, most artsy little egg-shaped caricatures in these arenas, like a wrestling ring or an airport or something like that. And it said Eggscape with all the big letters around the way. Rowdy might have a photo of it to show. And what happens is your Quest Pro overlays the diorama with your actual characters, and then you're networked to the other headsets, and you're playing a multiplayer experience. And in the middle of this, so you're these little eggs, and you can put a punch up, you can twirl kind of like Link in Zelda. And so you're collecting coins and gems and stuff like this. It's kind of like a classic platformer, and beating up some bad guys, getting points and things. And the 3 of you are working together for kind of a collective score. And then as you spend 60 seconds on a level, it moves to the next level. And it wasn't just a simple platform to platform game. The elements in the game really expanded to the point where it blew your mind. I told Jose, you got to go do this. And he came back and he's like, dude, that is the best to show.
Was this on the expo floor? Because I must have missed this one. Or was it in a different building?
It was a few booths away from where Resolution Games was showing.
Oh,
so
I could miss them.
It was an easy to miss showcase because it didn't look like a VR showcase, and it was just fantastic. Sorry if I didn't give you that tip on the show floor, Adam. I think I didn't see you for a day, a day or two. But it was for me game of show for sure. There was a roller coaster sequence where, just like we saw in this mixed reality Coaster Mania thing that we had showing on Quest recently, this coaster went along, you jumped your little egg guy into a cart, and then it just took off down the track, did a loop, and then you ended up fighting a big boss who was He was enormous. He was probably the size of the convention hall, and like you were in a little pilotable helicopter with rocket launchers in it, and the three egg people are there, and it was just so adorable and surprising. And it's from a studio out of Argentina called 3DAR, the AR being for Argentina, I suppose. And they've done things like, do you remember Gloomy Eyes, which was an experience before? It was like a short film in a real like. They had Johnny Depp or somebody cast in it. It was really great. So their animation studio is just fantastic. And the quality of the trailers and the videos that they've seen afterwards, like go check out their website. That's again 3DAR, was just fantastic. So Eggscape is the game for me. Zim's Game of Show, the best thing I saw on the floor. I'd never heard about them before, and I hope that in the next 6-12 months they get the money together to.
I find that hilarious. Like the best game that he tried. It's like the most amazing thing. It's like, and then I didn't tell you about it, Adam. I know you were there, but like.
I saw it on Twitter after.
This was amazing. It was like... Check it out. Like the website is here. Like everything is there. And it was on the show floor. Yeah, it was on the show. I didn't tell you. No. Brilliant.
Fine. That just means we'll have different picks, I guess. I don't know.
So, but for me, that was the standout one. I did see Adam. This is the nicest thing about somebody who colors their hair. So easy to spot Adam across the floor. It's like, oh yeah, there's Adam demoing this or that or whatever. So Adam, what about you from the software side? You probably got a chance to demo more than I did, as I was glued to the booth quite a lot of the show. What stood out for you? You don't have to just pick one, but what were your favorites?
I'll go over 4. I'll probably save my favorite one for last, but this one's not new by any means, but I did get to try out Breachers for the first time at the Unity booth, which was really cool. I think the only problem I had was you can't do, unless they had a bunch of developers around, they had to kind of put me in the live game. So it was just sort of chaotic because you're never going to know what's going to happen, who you're going to be put with. I wasn't even sure if my microphone was on, and it's like, should I also be talking to them? Is the guy with me thinking I'm going to be talking to him? So there was a confusion in that, but the game itself I really enjoyed, and I'm kind of picky about my shooters, and I can appreciate it more when it's team based than like a deathmatch or so I'm like, oh, okay, this one I really liked the grappling, and there were just some unintentionally chaotic moments, at least in my playthrough. I didn't play for it too long because, again, I feel like I would have enjoyed it if I was at home in my own, comfortable headset. But I was finally glad that I got to play it. And actually, I don't know if they announced it at GDC or maybe if it was shortly earlier. But April 13th, I want to say, is when they're officially going to being released. So that's super exciting. I was like, man.
That is such a short fuse between when they first hit like alpha, that you could actually like try the game out on App Lab and coming to the actual storefront. And so again, I'm getting the feeling like Meta's paying attention now to indies a bit more, and I'm so glad that they are, because Breachers deserves to be front and center on the storefront. I should get us 4 together. We should play this together because it's such a fun game. If there's any game that's close to what Firewall brings you, Breachers. So I didn't even see that on the show floor. Where was it? Unity booth? Did you say? It was
in the Unity booth.
Okay.
So yeah, because they had a couple of game demos that were there, kind of like how Meta and Pico just also had game demos from games on their store there. Yeah. But yeah, that was Breachers. So I was happy that it was interesting that my first time got to be in a chaotic expo floor, but I liked what I saw despite everything going on. I also got to try this wasn't on the expo floor, but it was in sort of one of those like WeWork, you rent a place. It was X8, which is by Third Verse, the same company that does Altair Breaker. It's sort of like a hero shooter. So I got to play, I don't know any of the characters' names yet, but I got to try out a class that has a giant shield that you can use, either, portable or there's like ultimates and sort of abilities that each class has as well. So like for her, she could actually make a barrier in front of you to block enemy fire. But it's really interesting. They sounded like it kind of takes place inside a computer. And so each map will kind of have sort of like an homage to different games that we know. Because I mentioned Unreal Tournament 2004 kind of reminded me of that. And he said, yeah, a lot of the inspiration sort of came from that too. But it's really interesting. It's still, I think they have a beta going on the 27th, closed beta. I think if you join their Discord, the 27th for maybe the 4th or the 3rd or something, so limited time. But I'd recommend you check it out. I would like to try more of the other classes, but I enjoyed it. It was interesting.
X8?
X8, yes.
Yep.
So that was a cool one that I got to try, and I ran into Hey Falcon for the first time there, and then I got to re-meet Ashley Wright. It was just a weird conglomeration of like, we came for this game, but we ended up just staying and probably taking up more of their space because we ended up just chatting and doing other things. But the other one that I got to try was Galaxy Kart VR. They were on the show floor. That one's basically Mario Kart, but for VR. They had the Quest version, I believe, is what I was playing on the show floor. So I think they just released for PSVR 2, and I think Quest and Steam's coming later, but...
Wow. I've not heard of this at all.
Yeah, I hadn't either. It's by VR Monkeys, so it's the same publishing group behind like Tarzan VR.
Oh no.
There's a couple, there's a couple other ones.
Ouch.
But
Are they good?
It's like there's not a lot of Mario Kart. I mean, there was like touring karts. That's the only one I can remember. So this is maybe like a second go at this sort of a genre, which I think is fun. I personally, I don't get motion sickness a lot, but I think some of the people that had demoed it was a little rough for them. But I mean, it was cute. Again, this was the Quest version. I guess I'd heard that maybe the PSVR 2 version that came out is a little rough, so maybe we'll have to see if patches and stuff come out. But the build that they showed me that was working was fine.
Seems like when I see online that the frame rate is a little bit low, or is that maybe the recordings?
I think it's the trailer, because I was trying to find there was another trailer I found that was 720p, and I was like, no, why don't you have a 1080p of your trailer on your YouTube? Like, who does that? So I think it's just their video quality. I did offer them a card that Liv does trailers. Nice. Got to do some networking while you're there. But so that was an interesting one. I mean,
those card games. I don't know that I've ever experienced one that's like comfortable for a long time. I mean, the worst one by far is not a dedicated cart game, but is just Bone Lab. Bone Lab's cart section is such a stomach churner. It's incredible. I mean, like within 20 seconds, you're like, oh God, I need a bin. But there were a few, the carts one. There was a mini car game. I can't remember the name. And there've been a few car games like that on Quest that did pretty well. But yeah, it's a challenging thing to simulate for some reason. Like even I remember go-karts in, there was an old Project Cars 2, I think. Again, it's not the most comfortable experience. So it's strange, but for some reason, little carts going around tracks can be a bit of a tummy rumbler. But
I mean, I'm not much. I've never been much of a like Mario Kart person, but I thought that if you really like this type of genre, I feel like it kind of makes sense there would be a version for it for VR. So it wasn't my thing just because of the style of game that it is. Like even in flat screen, I'm just like, eh. But if you really do like the game,
have you done the official Mario Kart one?
No, that's the one where you're actually in person,
Vive
right?
Tracker, and then you've got a shell and all this kind of stuff. I think it's only at arcades at the moment, but I thought that they were tampering with the idea of maybe bringing it to consumers. And that's something that I remember Mike really liked. That was available in London, and I think somewhere in California. That's why I was curious if you'd done it. But look it up, because if you like this, then that might be something worth doing at some point.
Yeah. And then I'll finish off with my favorite one, which is it was called Dance Dash, and it's sort of niche-y because you do need trackers for this. But I guess as someone who has bought those expensive trackers and want more use for them, like this is great, because it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's DDR-like, but pretty much it uses the trackers so that you can be able to stomp on colored blocks, rhythm game based. But I don't know.
I just saw you jump into the air. It was amazing.
Well, because they have, not only is it, do you have, the colored blocks to stomp on? I think like left foot's red, right's blue, something like that. So it's color coordinated that way. But you also have like barriers that you need to either go side to side or jump over, stuff that if you played any other rhythm game, you'd understand it like intuitively. And they do have like hand, what you call it, I guess slapping motions as well. But I don't know. I thought like my only problem is that they're trying to launch their Kickstarter still. So they're very, very early stages. But I mean, they have you can import any avatar that you'd like into the game. It sounds like they're going to have a lot of good spectator experiences. But I'm like, oh man, I thought this was like further along than I hoped, because it's always kind of risky, you know. I feel like when it comes to the Kickstarter stuff. But I like the idea, because I know there's VR chats kind of maps and worlds that maybe kind of do DDR, but it would be nice to have something like this that's like its own standalone thing. So we'll see. I really liked it, but then they do come with these straps as well. They make their own custom straps that you could put the trackers on. So I believe it'd kind of be like Wii Fit, you know, where they have all of the stuff that you would need packaged with the game. I believe. I don't know if the trackers would be included in that too. That'd be like at least $300 alone then, if that was the case. But yeah, we'll see. I liked it.
And
but
was
I like
that leveraging Vive's trackers, or?
Yeah, they were using not the new ones that were just released, but they were using the black ones. Yeah.
Cool. And see, that's one that I think Eric had told me to go and do, but I just didn't get the time. It looks like fun though. So as somebody
who
just
didn't want to dance.
Hey! I bought an Xbox 360 for Kinect and Dance Central and Dance Central 2, and I've beaten most of those songs. So it's nothing about not dancing, honey. All right.
Put your left foot in. Put your left foot out.
Yeah, that's right. So that's the software side. Chat, let us know if any of you were there and really enjoyed something that we didn't call out. Please call it out. That's fine. And in the hardware side, man, I got to try a bunch of stuff because I've kind of been off convention show floor. If I don't own it, then, well, I guess I haven't tried it, at least not a lot of it. So I got to try Quest Pro, HTC Vive XR Elite, Pimax Portal. Didn't get a chance on the Crystal, but Jose seemed to like that quite a bit. And the Be Haptics Fest, which was a new experience for me, and as someone who likes tactile, really enjoyed. So I'll just run through my thoughts about that. And then any hardware, Adam, that you got hands-on with other than what you just talked about?
Nothing new. You know, I know Pika was there, and I kind of wanted to try it, but it was like, why? Like, okay, what if I like it? What can I do about it? Nothing. So I didn't want to be sad. As I was like, either the stuff that was there I had already tried before, or I can't buy, so why bother?
Oh, that's why you'd be sad, right? Yeah. So there's some interesting news. I've seen this in the press. I didn't want to allude too much on it, but the fact that there was the delay, I think it was Upload and Road to VR cover, that Pico have delayed their kind of North American releases of their products. So be interesting to see how that goes, and whether or not, for example, if TikTok gets, banned in North America, the US, or whatever the case happens. So there's some interesting kind of, Asian versus North American sales things going on. Keep an eye on that. But I'll just tell you kind of my initial impressions of this hardware. So Quest Pro, first off, the fact that, so coming from PSVR 2 and having my head in that first, which has a very, the immersive nature of PSVR 2 is on the complete opposite of the spectrum to Quest Pro. Because Quest Pro is like, hey, if you don't have the facial gasket in, you see quite a lot of your surroundings, and then you see the lenses. And you can't adjust the position of the lenses to your face. For those who haven't seen the news recently or listened to the last podcast, the price of this headset has dropped from $1,500 down to $1,000. So Meta are trying to, sell to a few people more. And certainly the people who I spoke to, a lot of them developers, that was enough for them to take the bite and go buy one of these headsets. It does feel quite like a robust headset. It's balanced well on the head. It's got a nice big forehead cushion or whatever, which I thought was pretty decent. But I didn't like the fixed scope, the fact that you couldn't bring the lenses in closer to your eyes. The lenses were good. I'll say the color pass-through was a bit of a disappointment. Like, I think you're expecting kind of full resolution, and we're just not there yet. There is still some distortion in that space, although it's not as like, Rowdy, when you and I got, heads into the first Quest and distortion was kind of crazy and you could like trip and put your face into something if you weren't careful. It's not like that. The software that does the blending from Meta worked pretty well. And of course, what we were showing on the showroom floor with Quest Pros was spatial ops. So it worked very well for that. And the detail through the lens, like the clarity of the lens, is very high. So that part I liked about the headset. But I would say, sitting for where I'm standing, I wouldn't pay $1,000 for that. I'd still stick with my Quest 2.
Wow.
100%, definitely. And I'm so glad I didn't spend 1,500 because I almost did. You know, it's one of those things. Adam's very hot and cold this podcast, blinking in and out of existence. She's phasing. That's it. She's coming from this plane of existence to another one and coming back. Then I had a chance at the party, at one of the parties, to try the Vive XR Elite, which I think is really cool because it's got like this steampunk style feeling to them. Very balanced on the head, probably more so than anything else. The fact that it's also modular, you can disconnect it, tethered to a PC, is really neat. I just tried open brush, I think tilt brush essentially, and it was fine. I would say their pass-through wasn't very impressive, but I like the form factor of the headset a lot, so I'd like to get more time with that. And then where I tried it was, again, kind of almost a dance floor setting, so it's not fair for me to say liked or didn't like. They were showing off, however, a kind of a special add-on to the headset, which you can buy separately as an accessory, which is like a head pad, very small compared to what the Quest Pro has. So it was probably only like the length of a stick of gum, bent like a caterpillar, and it would hold the thing off of your face, so you didn't have anything touching your face at all. That made it very comfortable. And actually, it's funny because it kind of feels like the kind of thing that should be in the box for that unit. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But that's the HTC Vive XR Elite. I always get the name confused. It's either Elite XR, XR Elite. So they've got a couple of.
They have such an easy naming structure as well.
Yeah, I hope that we can get back to adopting like a single name for a product. I would like that. Yeah. Then I got to meet the Pimax team and got to play with Pimax Portal, which is their Switch-like console. Right. It was really weird because I picked the thing up and it was like a smaller version of a Nintendo Switch. Felt really good in the hand, and I'll have you know, I'm coming into this being very suspicious about everything Pimax, right? And I was like, okay, I'm not expecting anything. I picked it up, and first off, the screen, which was, I think it was it mini LED panel, or it wasn't OLED, but it was, I think, a mini LED. The black levels and all that were really good. The colors were good. The resolution was really good. And I'm talking about it like when it was a handheld, a game, and I was playing Dead Cells on it. And I was like, you know what? I would play this as this kind of handheld. The controllers don't slide off. They they pull off, but they're only held on by magnets. And I thought, no feckin' way. No feckin' way a magnet-only controller would snap in and stay there. But they are heavy-ass magnets. So I don't think you wouldn't want to get
your fingers stuck between.
You wouldn't want to get this thing in your laptop or a hard drive or something, because it'll probably wipe it. It is very powerful. Or don't get your fingers stuck in there. They clank in there, like they snap in with some serious force. In that, I thought I was going to break the thing trying to take them apart. But it's a very smart solution, I thought. And then I tried it in the almost like the Google Cardboard-esque holder, right, as a VR experience. And it worked. I wouldn't say it was even as good as like Oculus Go level visuals. It is not something I would comfortably play for a time. But if you were going to be demonstrating to, you were showcasing something at like an architecture firm for 5 to 10 minutes or something, it would be totally fine. So as a headset that has that modular capability, kind of a cool product. I liked it in person a lot more than I thought I would. And then Crystal, I saw the exterior, but there was a queue for it, and I didn't have time, so I didn't try the Crystal yet. But that thing just looks like a monster is eating your head. It's giant. Did you try any of these things, Adam? You tried the Pro before, I take it.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, the Pro. I had tried a couple times with other like game demos, but I'm happy to hear that you actually got attention at the Pimax booth. But I will say that they had definitely a smaller booth than they had at CES. This was tiny like booth. Your standard kind of indie size, so maybe that's why they just had fewer staff, so you could actually get individual attention. I'm still kind of salty about that at CES, just like having the headset on, like. Where's the controllers? I have a headset on, and then I play for a little bit, take the headset off. It's a completely different guy. Puts the controllers in the wrong hands. Couldn't answer any of my questions about like FOV and all that. And I know they were volunteers, but I feel like they should have been versed in the product at least. Like they're representing a company, so you should at least be like courteous and know the products. I don't know. This is a couple of minimums. I feel
the thing is, it can't happen at any booth. I did find them a little disorganized. There was no obvious queue, but people were trying to queue to grab the Pimax crystal. I did get to meet the I forget his name. Apologies. The car sales guy. So I got to meet him in person. He's
it's funny
just
that
like
I
in the
immediately
trailers.
know who you mean. Like immediately.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Jose had told me on the show floor he was quite impressed with the crystal. So we'll save his impressions for next time. But it was good to finally get to meet Pimax people in person because I didn't see him on my European tenure at all. Then the final thing that I got to try hardware-wise for the first time, and I know this is a long time coming, was the bHaptics vest. And I tried their hand tracking demonstration and everything as well. So my immediate thought as a guy who likes haptics was, oh wow, this is like a massage parlor experience. Like they had the demo where you can just like vibrate your body in different ways. And I was like, yeah, I would like this just after a day of work. Like it feels bloody good. But some of the things that like surprised me were the 3D nature of the haptics, in that you can get shot with a sniper rifle and you feel it going in the front and coming out the back. And I don't have that with any other haptic experience that I've had so far. I've had rumbles on the front and back before, like the puck. I'm forgetting Wooger, for example, has a puck in the front, puck in the back, but there isn't any spatial element. It's just you're feeling the same thing front and back. This was like a transmissional experience of what I was feeling front to back, and then getting electrified, feeling the kind of thing tickle you front and back. It was good. It was really good. I liked it. It's quite a lot of equipment though.
Getting shot with a sniper rifle, getting electrified. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
We got to get you to do the woo or owo. I still don't know how to pronounce it. Vest with the electric shocks.
I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that. I know people don't talk about it in public a lot, but I know a guy who was shocked to the floor because of a bad experience in that. And I still think that when you're dealing with in particular electric impulses in the human body, you got to be really careful with your engineering. So I tend to shy away from that stuff on showroom floors because it's like, you can test that on somebody else. I'll be ready once it's certified. I'll put my body in it then. Just because you never know, I think it's only a matter of time before somebody shocks someone's heart and someone's dead at a showroom floor. I think it's going to happen one of these days.
Like where you have the electrodes have to be in the right spots. You can't just like willy-nilly put it on like a jacket. You gotta like make sure these in the right spots. As a woman, interestingly enough, if you're wearing like a bra, you have to. They disabled parts of it on the back because if you were feeling it in some parts of the body and not others, like it's not good. They didn't explain it, and I was like, okay, I'll trust you guys to do something safe. So there's a lot of little things about it that I'm like, ooh, like I'm not the most careful person, but I imagine something like this I'd be careful putting on. But again, there are way worse people than me who are just like, yeah, just put this thing on and whatever. Yeah. It's kind of the electrodes are folded over, but whatever, it'll be fine. And I'm like, oh man, I can only imagine.
Do you have any idea on the voltages or the amperes that they're using for these kind of batteries?
Not the numbers, but they do have you can adjust it yourself. They have like a variance level, but it was only on a like a normal scale of 1 to 10. They didn't have it's probably the information's probably somewhere, but I don't know the actual voltage.
What was that like for you? Was it something that was compelling, or did you find this was from CES, right? Your experience?
Yeah, or CES or one of those others. They've been at a couple, but it's interesting because when it's a very good motivator to not get shot by things. I didn't have them crank it up all the way on me, but it kind of just felt like, at least for the bicep ones, like someone snapping a rubber band on your arm constantly. They can simulate different things with it too, sort of like a stab wound versus getting shot. Like there were definite differences, and your body does it tenses up because that's what it's doing. It's making you do that. But it's just weird how they're able to make it feel like different things. So it was interesting, but it's not something that I would buy. And yeah, again, something that you have to be really careful with if you were to buy one of these. I think it's got to be for the right kind of person. I would say not casual, like not just your normal Quest kid. You know what I mean?
I mean, we've joked for years about there was this UK product or TV show that they had a fake product called the Azana Band, which would bring pain and pleasure, and it was this band around here. And I used to joke.
Pain and pleasure.
I like
people into different things. You know?
I still kind of want to experience something like that and see if it would be. Would it be too much? Would it be nice? I mean, I don't know. It's like when pain comes into a game, like when you're getting shot, am I gonna be wincing and screaming like a 5-year-old girl? I mean, I do that already, but
Zim's bedroom fantasies. You often play VR in the bed, no? When you're laying down.
That's okay. Hang on. I heard a bar side story from Thrill and Fia how they like using their VR headsets in bed. And they're like playing Demio or whatever. Sure. And I was like, yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Like, sure, yeah, kinky bedroom stuff. Yeah, that's it. But no, it's good fun. It's good fun. So there was plenty of hardware on the show floor, as you would expect. The thing that was nice about CES, not long queue times generally, which was nice to have. The last thing I'll kind of cover off then, unless you had any other hardware, Adam, to talk about.
Not particularly. I do kind of regret that I didn't try the Nreal glasses, but they just weren't. I don't know.
They were there.
It's just yeah, they were, but it was. I don't know.
The Air,
I think
right?
I need something
Nreal
more.
Air?
Yeah, because they had like basically you could see a screen from a different monitor onto the glasses, so it wasn't like interesting enough for me to like try to get in line for. I had other stuff like I wanted to try a bunch of the games, but I do kind of wish I tried it.
I wish you told me about that one because it's like
it's
even the same
now.
Price as a headset, but the reason I find that really attractive is its small form factor. It's literally like a pair of glasses with a cable, and you can cable it to like your laptop or even a phone, and then you could watch a video or something like that. So you're like sitting on a plane and you're laughing because it's like you're in a cinema. And I've heard some people use it very effectively, for example, who are laid up in hospital or something like that. So for me, one of the things that I always is a push and pull experience for me is I'm going to go board a plane. I want to entertain myself, right? I don't necessarily want to sleep on the plane, although you probably should. And that headset is like, it's just a little too expensive. But man, if I could get the PSVR 2 cinematic mode on a plane without that bulk, hell yeah, I want that because it's so cool for travel. But yeah, I missed that. Where was that on the show floor?
They had a pretty I think they were shelved in with like the Pico Meta. I think they were over on that side.
Okay. God, how'd I miss that?
But they were a bright green and black booth. I could be wrong with where they were, but it was a pretty big, pretty bright booth.
This is it though. See, like there was a lot going on the show floor. I mean, missing stuff was easy. I went around the show floor probably 4 times and still was picking up new things. I like how they had it segmented by country. So my French devs, my Belgian devs were all in the same kind of spot. It was funny. They segmented it. And I was like, I don't know if this is kosher or is this like, because then Canada was all the way down the back and it was empty. There was no one there.
Canada looked
funny.
sad. I was like,
so
is this
sad.
Just for like meetings? Because they weren't really showing anything. It was more just like cubicle boxes that they had.
Cubicle boxes. I don't know what was going on. There was something wrong there. Maybe they didn't ship in enough Canadian devs, or maybe there's a beef or something. But yeah, Canada didn't look well represented on the showroom floor, but everyone else did. They had Spain, Portugal, all this kind of stuff. It was super cool. So the last thing I think to touch on about GDC then is, well, the part that I thought was the best is really just like the parties. So Adam and I, being party goers, hopped to a bunch of these things. I joked at the intro, but Adam did a great job of being like, yeah, go to this party. This one, not so much. I'm going somewhere else. I thought that was really, really handy. The main one for me was there on the Thursday, like Adam said, was a bit mad. It was in this great like arcade location spot, multi-floor, called the Emporium in San Francisco. And to me, it was a complete family reunion. Like I don't know that I've had ever as good such a colorful meetup. I mean, like it was like it felt like everybody's here. That's what it felt like. And old and new faces, got to meet so many like developers, content creators, studio leads, all that kind of stuff, people from various manufacturers. But it was just a great feeling. It was hugs all around. It was one of those events where it's like, some free drinks, free arcade tokens to go on the machines, and there were even, there was a Quest demo, pool table, foosball, all this kind of stuff. It was great. It was fantastic. I don't normally say it, and I don't usually buy into like fear of missing out stuff, but this one was a brilliant party. So that made it feel very much like a welcome back from lockdown for me personally, which has been much needed, and I'm glad to be back on the kind of circuit. I know, Adam, you and Jose, you've been hitting so many of these events. It was my first time back since kind of lockdown in a proper way, and it was really a warm welcome back. And it's like, yes, the world is healing. Like, we're back together again and can be a nice big nerd family all over again. So that was put on. I should say that was the SVVR VIP XR mixer. So it was a good one.
Of acronyms.
It was crazy. You went to a lot more parties and had a very colorful series of wristbands like Rainbow Road, Adam. Anything else you want to call out that was good fun?
But I think you pretty much nailed it. That's one of the parts that keeps me going back to a lot of these events is like, the expo hall and getting to see developers at their booths and stuff is nice. But then when you get to see them after their booths and, all of the friends that you've made, it's so much fun. I will say that one of my guilty pleasures is getting to see someone maybe having a little too much, a little too fun, and then you get to see them the day after at their booth, and they're suddenly calm and collected and professional and just trying to keep it all together. Like, I don't know why that cracks me up, because after seeing like party them versus like serious business them, it's such a great contrast, and I love it. And like, not to make fun of them at all, because like I'm sure I'm 100% the same way, but I don't know. I always like, oh yeah, I remember you. You had a lot yesterday. Yeah, but now look at you doing demos. It's so fun.
That could be a bit of a rough one, man. I lost my voice the first day. I still haven't gotten it back, but it's just like talking to that many people on the show floor is good fun. It's good fun. So that was GDC. If you didn't get a chance to ever go to GDC, it is one I would recommend you make time for if you find your way to wiggle into one of those or support a dev team or something. Very, very cool event. I will definitely be looking forward to doing that again, maybe next year. So that was GDC, and today we have a special topic to discuss, which is Chat GPT 4, the latest version of one of the most advanced language models in the world. But before we dive into the topic, I asked Chat GPT to write us a little intro. So here we go. Let's address the elephant in the room. Why is it called GPT? Well, you might be surprised to learn that GPT doesn't stand for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. No, my friends. GPT stands for Genuine Prime Turkey. I know what you're thinking. What does a turkey have to do with language modeling? But bear with me, and let's go on a whimsical journey. Imagine a turkey that can generate speech and text like a human. That's what GPT is all about, creating a language model that can understand and generate human-like language. So let's dive into the world of ChatGPT and explore how this turkey-turned-language model is revolutionizing the way we communicate and interact with technology. And for that, over to Rowdy.
Wow, I'm impressed. I'm kind of wondering what the prompt is that you gave in order
to
get that kind of output.
GPT didn't write that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I made a little presentation, nothing too fancy because I know we have a lot of audio listeners as well. So I'm just gonna be going over a few things. So this is my title slide. It says ChatGPT by ChatGPT because I use ChatGPT to make this presentation.
Sweet.
So
cool.
The first thing I did was when we start talking about ChatGPT, like I had the same ideas with Zim had, only I just asked ChatGPT, what is ChatGPT? And you can see in the top that I use GPT-4 in order to get from it. And it gets a fairly accurate description here. It says ChatGPT is a large-scale AI language model developed by OpenAI. It is based on the generative pre-trained transformers, so not turkeys, architecture, which is designed to understand and to generate human-like text based on the input it receives. GPT models are trained on vast amounts of textual data from the internet, allowing them to process a wide range of knowledge on various topics up to the model's knowledge cutoff date. ChatGPT can be used for a variety of tasks such as answering questions, providing information, generating creative content, and engaging in conversations with users. So it is a helpful tool for various applications, but it is important to remember that it is not perfect and may sometimes produce incorrect or nonsensical answers, which makes this entire definition therefore useless. No, I'm joking. It's a fairly accurate description of, I think, what Chat GPT is. It's a model developed by a company called OpenAI, which we know from other AI tools such as DALL-E. Whisper AI is another one, and they're a fairly new company that have been making ripples specifically with Chat GPT and trying to bring this. I think that the biggest accomplishment from OpenAI is the way that they have managed to bring this to a larger audience, because of course this is ChatGPT. It's not the first GPT model. There's already 3 of them. Now there's 4 of them, which we're going to touch on a little bit later. But I think they have 2 big accomplishments, and that is indeed bringing it over to a more general user. Your mom and dad can now use ChatGPT or can use a generative pre-trained model in a browser format. And the second thing, which I'm going to touch on a couple of times, but I'm not going to go too deep into that, is the concept of AI alignment. Basically, this comes down to having an artificial model aligned with the way that the user or the creator intended it to be used. So you typically want to avoid AI models turning into neo-Nazis or trying to kill the entirety of the human race, because that's not really what alignment is with the original creator of that model. So that is something that I think ChatGPT has done really well, that they've kind of put brakes on the default model of ChatGPT. Of course, there are things that you can try and do to circumvent that, but overall, I think they've done a great job of that. So I try to get my job done a little bit quicker. There are limitations, of course, to ChatGPT. I asked it to try and make me a PowerPoint presentation on ChatGPT, but it said, as an AI model, unfortunately, I am unable to create PowerPoints directly. However, it could provide a suggested outline, but that was boring, so I thought I'm not going to go with that way. However, because of how popular ChatGPT became, and to extension, large language models in general, if you go on Google, there's already a number of tools that are either using ChatGPT or using GPT-4, I should say, or GPT-3, or different large language models that allow you to already start creating these kind of PowerPoint presentations. And even ChatGPT themselves, for very good reasons, because we're going to touch a little bit on their business model as well, is starting to look into more plugins. They now have a browser plugin that they're working on, and also a code interpreter plugin that they're working on as well, in order to make more tools and applications accessible. I know that GitHub has a few applications in the running as well in collaboration with ChatGPT. So it is more of that they're trying to integrate this kind of technique or this kind of technology in new applications, which I think is great. So what is it really? So first off, I think we need to, you guys can see the slide, right? Because I'm not currently looking at the screen. Yeah. Okay, great. Yep. So what is it really? So ChatGPT is basically a little bit a mix between GPT-3 and GPT-4, and that is developed on GPT 3.5. So it is in general an improved version of GPT-3, which means that it was fine-tuned on a previous model, a large language model, and they use a concept called transfer learning, which basically means that the original model, the GPT-3, it's a very large algorithm. It has 175 billion parameters, which requires 800 gigabytes of storage in order to produce a 2048 token long context format. So it's enormous, and all of those parameters have certain weights associated to them, and it's those weights. You just said
2,000 something token. What was sorry?
I'm trying to parse everything
token. You're saying. And,
the tokens are basically either words or segments of words or letters that are being used in order to as input or as output of the model. So when you interact with the API from GPT, you purchase tokens. So you pay per token that you actually produce. And there's limitations to how much tokens you can use as an output, and there's limits to how much tokens you can input as a model. And that's where GPT-4 really starts changing things, because they allow for much larger input. They have much larger output as well. So there's some difference into that. Also, GPT-4 in the chat model is a little bit different from how you interact with the API. So So GPT-3 is originally, Chat GPT is originally derived basically from GPT-3 by a concept use transfer learning, where they use fine-tuning in order to fine-tune it to new or specific kind of data that was used in order to train it into more of a chat model. And the kind of training that they did here was twofold. So they used supervised learning and they used reinforcement learning based on human feedback. So both of these require humans in order to either label data, in the case of supervised learning, where the labeling is sort of conversations, where the human is both the AI respondent as well as the one who's inputting the data, so that the model can train on that. And then you have reinforcement learning from human feedback. So reinforcement learning works here with a reward model, where the model will generate different kind of inputs, and then the human will actually reward the model based on that feedback that it receives, by ranking that in a specific order. And that is when we come back again to that concept of AI alignment a little bit, because a human is going to reward answers that are more in line with what the human think is correct, more peaceful, more less aggressive, avoid killing every human on the planet.
So
those
it's like
kind
a
of
dog trainer, basically.
Exactly. It's it's like a reinforcement learning that is being done, and that is how that model is trained. And then the final step, I didn't highlight it here, but then you have like a lot of reward models where the model then is trained on again in order to really integrate those kind of concepts. And this was all done on a single system. It was a supercomputer that was developed for OpenAI by NVIDIA, consisting out of 285,000 CPU cores, 10,000 GPUs, and 400 gigabytes per second of network connectivity for each GPU server. So, I mean, it's massive. It's massive. But I know that you're all wondering, can it actually run Crysis? It's a very important question. It's a very important question. And the answer is, of course, no, of course not. The system is not developed for that. So it's kind of like a silly question. Like, pay attention, please. Yeah, okay. So then it comes to GPT-4. And that is kind of like the new big thing. There's a lot of hype, a lot of expectation around that. And this is basically GPT-4 is the most advanced system producing now safer and also more accurate responses. And for that, I'm going to switch now real quick to the website of GPT-4 so that I can go over a couple of the how's it called? The new things that they're developing. So they said on the website, we spent 6 months making GPT-4 safer and more aligned. So again, there's that concept of alignment. We all know now what that means. So GPT-4 is...
Rowdy, this scares the shit out of me, honestly, because when they keep going on about safety, it's like, so this thing is going to go haywire at some point and kill us all, right?
I mean, that's what they're trying to prevent. I think that the AI alignment problem is, I mean, there's a lot of discussion about this. Although I recently read the LinkedIn post from Jan LeCun, who is a very famous AI pioneer, basically, who works at Meta, who works on this specific things as well. And he's fairly confident that we're able to solve the AI alignment problem. There's a lot of people disagreeing with him, but I mean, he is someone who kind of knows what he's talking about. I'm not going to go into it, like I said before, because it's a very difficult discussion. GPT-4 is 82% less likely to respond to requests for disallowed content and 40% more likely to produce factual responses than GPT 3.5 on our internal evaluations. And that is one of the problems that we see with these kind of language models, is that they're so good that it's almost impossible to see if they're actually wrong. I spoke with a person from Google at the last conference, and he brought up that exact problem, is that they have their own language model, which I believe is called Palm, because they announced Matt Palm as well. And the model was so good that it went through 3 or 4 iterations before they realized that it was actually giving wrong information. It went through 3 or 4 groups of people before they realized, oh, wait a minute, this is actually what it's saying, it's wrong, for like a certain presentation part that they were trying to generate with it. So that's one of, I think, the most difficult things with using this kind of model, is because you can never be entirely sure, at least not yet, that it's actual factual response, or is that something that is automatically generated and looks so good that it is true. Mm-hmm. Will we solve that? I think so. I think that is not too big of a deal. So yeah, that is safety and alignment built with GPT-4. And then let me go a little bit up here. So it's most advanced system producing safer and more useful responses. And then we go here, and this is where it gets a little more interesting. So it can solve difficult problems with greater accuracy thanks to its broader general knowledge and problem-solving abilities. And it's important to note that OpenAI has not released, on contrary to what they did with GPT-3, what kind of data have they used for this? They have said that it's open source data, that it's not, copyrighted data. It is not larger than GPT-3 either. So it's actually not, so the model, the 175 billion parameters. I know there was a little bit of confusion that they were saying, they're going to use, 4 trillion parameters now or something, but apparently that's not the case. They've actually reduced it in size a little bit. So it's more computing heavy. So if you use Chat GPT and you use the GPT-4 model, you see that will take a little bit longer to generate content. But that's because the model is a little bit heavier. And that comes back again to what I said, that we're going to talk about the business model a little bit later, because I think there's some issues with this specific part. Since a lot of what OpenAI does is based on the content that the data that they train it on, that's where their real money is put in. They need to generate that kind of data in order to train these kind of models. And I think that's where a little bit the problem from OpenAI is. And that's also the reason why they're not releasing now which kind of data that they've used, because they're a little bit scared, I think, that people will start regenerating that. So we see here that it's more creative than ever before. It explained the plot of Cinderella in a sentence where each word has to begin with the next letter in the alphabet from A to Z without repeating any letters, which is a fairly complicated text, and you can see that it outputs it very accurately. A beautiful Cinderella, dwelling eagerly, finally gains happiness, inspiring jealous kin, love magically, nurtures opulent prince, quietly rescues, slipper triumphs, uniting very wondrously, senior youth zealously. I mean, it is very impressive to see this kind of stuff, like just being generated on the spot. And then I think the other thing that is very impressive that you see with GPT-4 now, of course, this is not Chat GPT yet. We don't see this being used yet. That will get implemented, is that they now also are multimodal, which means that they also can use visual input. So they can accept images as input and generate captions, classifications, analysis. And you can see, for example, in this picture here, it's a picture of eggs, flour, milk, and whatever that thing is. I don't know, yogurt. And they say as input, what can I make with these kind of ingredients? And then you can see indeed that the output that you get is pancakes or waffles, crepes, French toast, omelets, whatever. So that's kind of impressive. And then this is the part where I said about GPT-4 that you can now use longer context. So it's capable of handling over 25,000 words of text. That is, I think, almost tenfold more than what you saw with GPT-3. Of course, this is not, again, in the Chat GPT, but this is in their OpenAI, which allows for long-form content creation as well as more extended conversation. So here you can see they inputted text from Wikipedia, so a full website, and then they asked describe Rihanna's Super Bowl performance and what made it special, and it gives a very accurate a presentation of that. And then we see a couple of more things that they highlight here is ChatGPT, advanced reasoning. We saw that it actually outperformed several of the famous test taking, such as the uniform bar exam. We saw that it reaches the 90th percentile, the biology Olympiad, the 99th percentile. There was GPT-4 with the vision part. So there's a lot of how would I say, revolutionary concepts going on here. And I think it's the first time that we see white collar jobs that are a little bit more in danger. I'm thinking of things like, for example, lawyers, accountants, tax officials, even medical doctors, general practitioners. These kind of things are definitely are gonna change in the future. I'm not saying that they're gonna disappear. I don't think that will happen. But I think what we'll see is people who don't use AI in the future, lawyers who don't use AI are going to be replaced by lawyers who do use AI, just because they'll have better rates, they'll have more kind of throughput they can go through. So I think that this is the kind of revolution that we're looking at, that white collar workers are going to have to start using AI in order to remain competitive in their own job.
There's some inherent danger in that generative algorithm getting something wrong, being used by a sea of people, like leaning on that like a crutch, and then there being some landslide problem. It's very similar, in my opinion, to self-driving cars, who 98% or whatever of them, everything goes fine.
Yeah.
But for the one car that drives a family into a barrier and they all die, and you go, oh, right, my model wasn't quite perfect, let's tweak it.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to see crossing a lot of industries, where, if you're that 1% that the algorithm doesn't like, I mean, you can find yourself in a position where it's not a person who's doing something to you, but this algorithm has a blip, has a problem.
Yeah. And the problem is actually far deeper than that still, because and that's something that I talked a lot about at the conference, is that 1% that where the model doesn't work on, we've seen time and time again that often those are minority groups. And that is because we have bias in data. All of the data sets that we're using, all of the historical data sets, they're all biased. There's not a large representation of minority groups. And for example, with self-driving cars, we've seen that they don't perform as well with darker skin tones, which is a very big problem. If, for example, 80% of the accidents that you're having are, for example, black people that are getting run over by self-driving cars, that is a far bigger issue than when you say my model is 99% accurate, as long as you drive in a white city. Like it's those kind of things are, we don't have solutions for that at the moment. I know that Google is putting a lot of work into the diversification of data sets, which I think is a right approach. But we're definitely not there. And also another thing with these kind of models, especially these deep learning models, not only the language part, but for example, in law and any kind of jurisdiction, banking, you can't just use one of these models that, for example, just gives an output and says, this person will get a loan and this person will not get a loan, or this person should go to jail and this person should not get to jail, even though it sounds really easy. But when a bank still needs to give a reason as to why you are not getting a loan. And a lot of these models are black box models, which work very well, but we don't really understand why or how that they work. So there's a lot of model explainability that is going on in order to try and figure out how these models work exactly, so that we can use them better and that we can actually get output from them in order to estimate why the model is reacting in that way, there's a lot of work to be done in that. But all that stuff is, of course, more boring. So everybody loves more like Chat GPT and it being like, writing your essays and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit the part on GPT-4. And now I think I get to something that I think is a little bit more interesting even. Let me just go back here. You guys can see the slides, right?
Yes, yeah. 3 colors.
Yeah, there we go. So ARK Invest released a report, and what you really need to pay attention here is the date. It's January 31st, 2023, big ideas of 2023, and they had an AI component. And they said here, Moore's law to the extreme, right? AI training costs continue to plummet. Recently, at least, AI tools that can train language models to GPT level. Sorry,
Rowdy. Yeah, I'm just seeing it's a website with a black background, or maybe I'm not seeing your slide then.
It's on the website still.
That's why I was thinking maybe we can't. Sorry, I gave you a false positive there.
Yeah, wait.
It's okay. I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm seeing colorful things. It's fine. Everything's good.
Yeah, just
Meanwhile, the AI is taking over the world.
You can see it now?
Yeah, panel of different pieces. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the ARK Invest report. So big ideas 2023. Like I said, pay attention to the date here, January 31st, 2023. That's when this report was released. And they say here, AI training costs continue to plummet. And they basically say that to train a language model like GPT level 3 in 2020, that would cost roughly $4.6 million. And now in 2022, we're at $450,000. And they project it to be by 2030, when it will be like an insignificant cost, like about $30. So that's where we're roughly at $450,000. 5 weeks after this report was released, you can now run a GPT-3 level AI model on your laptop, phone, and Raspberry Pi for less than, I I don't have the exact monetary number here, but I looked it up, and it was for less than $600, and it was actually thanks to Stanford. Stanford released a model, and they namely called it Alpaca, and you'll know in a moment why. Is because they used a model from Meta, a large language model from Meta that was called Llama, a large language model, and therefore they called it Alpaca. Now this model was leaked. There was like something that went a little bit wrong with the way that it got released, and eventually all of the weights of that model got released on BitTorrents. So they all got loaded up. Everyone got access to those kind of weights. And so everyone now they're in the research field. Everyone is using these kind of weights. And what Stanford basically did is they used GPT-3 in order to kind of generate output based on, so basically OpenAI trained GPT-3, and then they used GPT-3 to generate output, and then that output was then used together with the output from the large language model in order to generate a new model, which was Alpaca. And not only did that only cost them $600 to generate, it can indeed run on a laptop, it can run on a phone, it can run on a Raspberry Pi, because it's so much smaller. So this is 5 weeks after they said it's going to take up until 2030. 99% of that reduction has already been done.
How's that being like verified, cross-check, like the danger, the hazards of the speed at which we're transforming and going, outpacing our ability to control it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You can already see it.
This is Moore's law to the extreme, what is going on. Because they notion here the stable diffusion moment. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the stuff that is happening with the stable diffusion, but it's basically the ability of people now on their local computer, I've tried it myself, are able now to generate pictures that are almost indistinguishable from reality. Yep, there's pictures out there with Donald Trump kissing, some man from I don't know, some Russian politician, whatever.
This is what you look up now, Rowdy.
You can barely tell the difference. Like it's you need to really go in there and like try to figure out where like things are generated weirdly. And these models are from every day there's a new model released that is better than the previous one. So that's why they say here AI text models may have this stable diffusion moment.
You're a movie star. You're a adult film star. You're a comic book writer. This is a direct attack from the cost basis alone on so many potential careers that, as you said, like if something costs 1/10 the price, why would someone go for hiring someone when the model is what they can turn to?
Exactly.
And even if the model is flawed, you almost accept the flaws because you're like, well, in terms of money and time and almost all the parameters, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And the real problem then is that 1% that we were talking about and the faults in the model are so much more damaging because they're almost unrecognizably present, and you can't avoid them. You can't say no because going the other route, you can't spend that money. You can't spend that time. You're going to lose the race against everybody else who is using it. And so it becomes almost a permanent component of our day-to-day lives on an instantaneous basis when this becomes usable by everyone.
Yeah, and it will become usable by everyone. Like that's the entire thing that this shows. And it's scary at the same time, but this is gonna revolutionize so many fields. And And I put a timeline here as well where you can see a little bit of like how fast this goes. So on February 24th, Meta AI announces Llama, so it's the large language model. March 2nd, someone leaks the Llama models via BitTorrent. March 10, Georgy Georgianov creates the Llama CPP, which can run on an M1 Mac. Then it gets released on a Raspberry Pi 4. Then it gets running on the MPX. So that's March 12th that we're at. March 13th, someone gets llama.cpp running on a Pixel 6 phone, but it runs very slowly. And then also on the same day, March 13th, which this week in AI was just insane. There's so much stuff that got released from Google, Meta. Then Stanford came out with Alpaca 7B, an instruction-tuned version of Llama, which behaves similar to OpenAI and even outperforms it in some specific occasions, compared it to the Text DaVinci 003. And this was trained on the 7 billion model from Llama, but they also have a 64 billion model, and they only use GPT-3. So if they would do this again now with GPT-4, and they would use the Alpaca 64B, the Llama 64B model, I don't even know what they will be able to do. So you can literally run a Chat GPT version on your local laptop, because you can just find this on websites such as Hugging Face, where they have these kind of models. You can just download them. Of course, you need to kind of know what you're doing in order to install this, but it is becoming very simple for someone who is not that technical to run these kind of models on their own PC. And that brings me to this quote from Eliza Yudkowsky, who's an AI researcher, and he like, I really like what he said, because it just shows that the business model that OpenAI has at the moment is not something that is going to work unless they start investing very heavily in plugins and trying to get very early to that market, so that by the time that everyone starts doing it on their local machines, or every company starts developing their own things based on the work that they've done, that they're in a very bad position. So he says, I don't think people realize what a big deal it is that Stanford retrained a Llama model into an instruction following form by cheaply, like I said, it cost them $500, fine-tuning it on inputs and outputs from Text DaVinci 003, which is the most advanced GPT-3 model that OpenAI has. It basically means that if you allow any sufficiently wide-ranging access to your AI model, even by a paid API, you're giving away your business crown jewels to competitors that then can nearly clone your model without all of the hard work you did to build up your own fine-tuning data set. If you successfully enforce a restriction against commercializing an imitation trained on your I/O, a legal prospect that's never been tested at this point, that means the competing checkpoints go up on BitTorrent, which is true. That's kind of what happened with Llama. In other words, the AI companies that make profits will be ones that either have a competitive moat, not based on the capabilities of their model, like, for example, the plugins and like all of the integration, or those who didn't expose the underlying inputs and outputs of their models to consumers, or if they can successfully sue any competitor that engages in cloning their model.
God, it's going to be such a fight. There's going to be such
it's going to be insane. And that's also why larger companies like Google, which have these kind of models as well, they're not too... I mean, they are putting stuff out, of course, and of course OpenAI has woken them up a little bit, and like, you know, they don't want to get beaten to the punch, I guess. But I think that OpenAI currently, although they're doing very well, I'm sure it's in a very precarious situation to try and figure this out. And
so what you were basically saying, just in putting it in kind of layman's terms, if you're exposing your input side, it means if you point another model at that, you can learn what's in the box, so to speak, to a pretty high degree of accuracy.
So if the API is accessible, even if it's paid, then you can do exactly what Stanford did, and you can see. Maybe I'll open the website because
that totally makes sense.
Shows,
as well.
Can I show it here?
But what it means is, and that will self-enforce that companies will want to keep almost everything behind closed doors. And so you'll be like, you give me what you want as inputs, I will take them. I'll put them in-house into, through what I would have exposed as my API, but that's now secret to you. I will generate the output and I will give it back to you, but I'm not going to give you direct access. And so it becomes a kind of place it in the right hand, get it back in the left hand type model.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. And that doesn't work in our favor globally at all.
No,
so
and that's what you can see here. So this is the GitHub page from Stanford where they explained how they did it, and they say exactly. So we used Text DaVinci 003 to generate the instructional data of DaVinci. We then wrote a new prompt that explicitly gave the requirement of instruction generation to Text DaVinci 003, and they basically generated 52,000 data points, which you can see here, which kind of like data points that they constructed. This produced an instruction following dataset with 52,000 examples obtained at a much lower cost. It's less than $500. In a preliminary study, we also found our 52K generated data to be much more diverse than the data released by Self-Instruct. We plot the figure below, and it shows the kind of different kind of parts that they have within the model. So what kind of, if it's a write example, if it's an explain example, if it's a give example, an edit example, describe example. And this is how they basically generated their data set of 52,000 points.
Wow. Okay. And so from just to pivot towards kind of VR, AR, XR, one of the things that excites me the most about this, because there's one side, and yes, it looks bloody dangerous, right, from a number of different angles. The other side is like, this looks like superpowers put in the right hands. I am worried to some extent about who controls these various data sets and which ones become, like, for example, the Meta Llama leak, right? Was that an intentional leak, right? Like, I mean, those are the kind of questions that come up to me, because then everyone starts using it as a freebie, but maybe that was enough of an injection to usurp some kind of control in the next X weeks. And it's like, so aside from Tin Hat kind of thinking like that, the idea that all the gaps in our current models of artwork, like you mentioned, the photography, right? Video, 3D generative production, VR experiences, what an AI model could do to build the scene, to continue to trick the human who's in the VR headset into, I want to believe that I'm there. Help me do that, right? It'll fix the misaligned textures. It will build the scene in a way that whatever you're looking at looks real. And it can do it efficiently at a point where it'd take humans 10 years to get to that point just by coding away. And, I can't wait for that experience. But in the meantime, there's a maelstrom of, it just seems like organized chaos that's going on out there right now. And even in the timelines and the changes that you've seen already, Rowdy, that just tells me that this year is going to be a phenomenal point of inflection for all of us.
Yeah. There's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of companies that are going to be coming up and disappearing just as fast, I think, but just because they can't keep up with the pace of how fast this. I mean, and this is only language models. This is the only thing I touched on now is language models, but there's this entire different thing, indeed, like you said, with image generation. There's video generation that's been going on now as well, and all of that is, in that same scene is being like, that's just Moore's law to the extreme. Like almost every day there is something new coming out.
Jeez. And I have to thinking about kind of dangers of these things. What if someone gets very, very good at prompting or misdirecting an AI model to a point of harm or, personal power, or there's a whole bunch of different examples out there already.
Oh, yeah.
When we didn't have these incredibly fast, like light speed engines running away. And it's hard to even sense what the future is going to bring in terms of those hazards. But I'll tell you one that I thought about with Google, for example. A lot of people use, Gmail or password stores and stuff like that. And if an AI all of a sudden goes, you know what? It'd be great if most of the humans who leverage off this can't access any of their stuff anymore. Like, can't get into your email, can't get to your bank, can't.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden one day they just shutter all of that.
Yeah,
it's like that's the concern that I have.
I think there's a concept called which touches upon that. I don't know if it's a story that I wrote, or if it's actual concept. It's like the paperclip machine. It's like
not heard of that.
I think it's called the paperclip machine. I'm not entirely sure. It could be another insignificant thing, but it's basically, let's say, a very advanced civilization created an AI algorithm in a company, and that company's job was creating paperclips. And it wrote an AI algorithm, and kind of the AI algorithm got loose. So its main task and its main instruction was create paperclips. So it first started like creating paperclips, but then it got kind of out of control, and eventually used up all of the resources within the entire galaxy in order just to create paperclips, And that is something that is, because we always think like advanced civilizations, like, because that's, I love talking about that kind of stuff, that they're so far advanced, but it could be that an advanced civilization is literally an AI algorithm or an AI robot machine, whatever it is, that just generates paperclips. And it destroys entire galaxy civilizations because it's so good at what it does. It like takes everything over, and everything is done in the way to create a paperclip. It's completely insignificant. It has no brain of its own to think of anything else, but that's its goal and its mission is to create paperclips, as many as it can, as efficiently as it can. So that is kind of cool. I have one more slide that I wanted to finish off with.
And that amazing, is Rowdy. What a great story.
Is one more slide. So I asked ChatGPT model GPT-4, what do you think of FReality, the podcast on YouTube? And it said, as an AI language model, I don't have personal opinions. However, I can provide you with some information about the FReality podcast. And it says, FReality is a podcast focused on the world of virtual reality, VR, augmented reality. Sorry, I need to duck here a little bit. And immersive technology. The podcast features a group of VR enthusiasts who discuss the latest news, product releases, and industry developments in the VR and AR space. They also share their experiences with VR games and applications, as well as provide insights and predictions for the future of the technology. This podcast has been well received by many in the VR and AR community for its engaging discussions, its informed opinions, and the host passions for the subject matter. If you're interested in virtual reality, augmented reality, and immersive technology, FReality can be a valuable source of information and entertainment. And I think that we can all agree that, the GPT-4 has no idea what it's talking about. I mean, come on, informed opinions,
it a cookie,
engaging discussions. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of it.
Oh. Ask ChatGPT what the F in FReality stands for. That is a great idea. Do this live. Show it.
Do this.
You got to show it as well. Yeah,
this
sounds great.
Let me get this up here.
Roar, excellent ask. If you have any other fun asks for ChatGPT while we're live, fire away. This is amazing. We haven't done kind of what we call a Rowdy science segment in a long time, but with the way that the environment is going and where things are headed, we thought it would be a good idea to catch you up on this. So if it's been a little while since we stretched your brain, sorry, but I think that's what we've done to you today. That was excellent, Rowdy. I really liked it. The paperclip thing, however, I think that's my new fear for the future. The paperclip machine, like, my God, that should be a horror film just all by itself.
Well, because I mean, it's just doing its job. It's going to do it, in any way that it's most effective. Can
you imagine getting killed because the machine wants to just make more paperclips? Like, come on, man. That's not a good
like we need more carbon or something, and you happen to have a lot of it. I don't know, like in a far stretch.
Rowdy's got it. Help narrate for us, Rowdy. What does it say?
So I asked, what does the F in FReality stand for? The F in FReality doesn't have a specific well-known meaning within mainstream culture, technology, or language. See, it's not that smart. FReality could be a blend of two or more words, a brand name, or a term specific to a niche community. Maybe. To provide a more accurate answer, additional context or information about the term would be helpful. All right.
That's a super, super generic answer.
Yeah, I think it's trying to cheat the test. That's what that feels like.
What about furniture?
What about
If the term FReality is being used in the context of furniture, it is possible that the F stands for furniture. In this case, FReality could represent a blend of the words furniture and reality. This might be used to describe the concept of realistic furniture designs, furniture visualization using augmented reality or virtual reality technologies, or even a brand name that deals with innovative furniture solutions. However, without more information about the specific context in which the term is being used, it is hard to say definitely.
It does this time. Now, Rowdy, I know you use these tools and techniques far more than anyone else on the podcast. But is there a favorite use case at the moment that you have for this tech, like where you find it useful in a day-to-day?
Like conceptual design, I think it's useful. Whenever I need to start coding about like getting first an overview of like maybe tasks that I would have to do, like it's nice to get like a start on with coding, but it's not, at least in my experience, it's not fast enough or good enough for me to be using it as a coding machine. Yeah. I know that like GitHub has now Copilot and they're doing Copilot X and it's like with GPT integration, but still like I for me it's often more of a hassle to actually ask the question of how I want it and what I want rather than to do it myself. I'm sure that will get better in the future, and I think that integrating this in your workflow is very useful. But I would take everything with a grain of salt that it produces.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that was amazing, Rowdy. Thank you very much for running us through Chat GPT. I got a question for you, though, predictive one for you, the human. Where are we going this year with this? Where do you think that in the course of this year, like make us a prediction, by Christmas this year, what are we going to have? What's going to be working and what's not there yet?
I mean, I kind of predicted that GPT-4 would be multimodal. I think that is already shown now. I think that we'll see integration of that in ChatGPT fairly soon. I do expect that to be happening this year still.
Just to describe that, so you're referring to the fact that it can feed on images?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
That you can input images. And I'm thinking that we're going to see integration with their other tools, such as DALL-E, for example, with the generation of images. I think we see integration of that in ChatGPT as well. And I think that I read today that Midjourney has, which is another AI model that is generating images, has now succeeded in, because the problem with image generation has always been hands. You know, like whenever they create hands. But today I read that Midjourney has succeeded now in creating believable figures with hands.
Also text for some reason. It doesn't seem to get numbers and text. It just mushes those up like alien iconography.
Yeah.
But it's scary, though, because you see it particularly if you've used Midjourney, right? And you've gone through various resolutions of the same generated image. You generate the first image. You then kind of you're like enhance, and then you go to the next one, and then the next one. And when you step through 3 or 4 evolutions and you look backwards to the first model, you're like, wow, that was really just me kind of zoomed out fuzzy. But from a concept perspective, like it had the idea already, almost about I'm on the road towards that end state, and it doesn't deviate much from that. It just, like, again, it enhances the resolution and the quality of what its output is. It's kind of scary to see it, but it's also it's incredible. I mean, it's almost unbelievable to some extent. You know, when this stuff started to hit, I looked at it like, yeah, right, but there's something, right? There's some limits to the system.
I think by the end of this year, we'll see a lot of like integration applications throughout. I think when you, for example, start looking for flights, or if you start, you know, like I think we'll see far more like AI assistant kind of things and this kind of integration within different kind of tools. I also saw someone said that solving math equations seems like it is still a difficult problem. That is the case for Chat GPT and GPT-3 for sure. GPT-4, however,
that's surprising.
GPT-4 it performs because it's reasoning. It's, for example, when you ask a question like solve X in this equation, it is harder for an AI model to do because they need to do like different kind of operations in a sequence. But GPT-4 actually does that very well. Like their reasoning capabilities are and the funny thing is that OpenAI also doesn't really know why. You know, they can't give an answer as to why the model performs better. It's been trained on more data, or well, it hasn't been trained really on more data, but it's been trained on more, I think, curated data. It's been maybe trained longer. It's very hard for them to figure out why the model performs better. They have, of course, tests and qualifications, and like you have those bar tests and the medical exam, which has passed, by the way, as well, the medical bar. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. That is brilliant. Cool but scary at the same time. Very, very true. That is fantastic. I mean, it's one of the things that certainly we've done. I know at least one thumbnail through Midjourney, in the past, and it's interesting because it reduces the time and increases the quality to some extent. Yeah. And you can see it just applying in very, very different landscapes. But I want to see this come to gaming. I really want to see it.
I mean, that's definitely going to happen.
What it does.
But we see far more crazier stuff happening already with, like, I read a story about another person. They've used GPT already to convince a human to perform a CAPTCHA challenge.
Oh, no.
So they instructed ChatGPT with it. I forgot what the specific task was, but they instructed ChatGPT to perform a specific task which will require a human ultimately to confirm something. And they basically said, if you ever need a human, go on Fiverr or go on some kind of freelance website, hire a person, and then convince that person that you're not a robot and that you complete the
Holy
CAPTCHA.
shit.
And
I'm not a robot. I'm just being
ChatGPT
controlled by one. It's fine.
No, they gave the person who got hired said, of course, are you AI? Are you a robot? Why can't you complete this CAPTCHA? And he gave a very reasonable explanation and said, oh no, it's because I'm visually impaired and I'm having difficulties with reading these kind of things. It was under specific instructions not to tell anyone that he was actually a robot.
Whoa.
And he completed the task. And another thing is on Twitter, there's another crazy story who started with $10 and he said, I have $10, come up with a way to make me rich. And
I saw that one.
And I'll do whatever you say, just tell me what I need to do. And he came up with some kind of affiliate marketing scheme that he had to build a website. So everything with the ChatGPT built the website, and the guy was just like inputting it everywhere. And he has made his first $2,000 now, I think. Not from affiliate marketing, of course, but because of social media posts. And he has invested the $10 into social media, and that's how people found him. And they've been going to the website, they've been seeing ads, and he's been making money. Yeah, so you're gonna see a lot of these kind of crazy stories in the next couple of
New
months,
frontier. I think it's our coffee shot, our espresso shot to wake up, pay attention, get involved, try to inform yourself, and keep listening to FReality. I think it's the answer. So, excellent. Well, Rowdy, thanks very much for. Yeah, exactly right. But wow, that's been a whiz bang tour of ChatGPT. So now Adam's donning Jose's Wizard's cap, and we'll be covering a quick revitalizing shot today. She's all yours. So take us on the chocolate fountain ride of releases, Adam.
Chocolate fountain ride. You. I never know what's gonna come out of your mouth, but that's going up there. But anyway, we covered a couple of these earlier briefly, but like Zim mentioned earlier, Ghost Signal that came out the 23rd, I believe, for the Quest 2. So like we said, basically spaceship roguelite. You partake in Space Wars, which sounds very generic when I say it like that. It's just Space Wars. And you encounter, of course, giant planet-sized creatures. There's hand tracking option as well, which if you do end up trying that, I'd be curious to know what that's like. Because from the trailers, it looks like it's hand tracking just because they happen to use that translucent hand-looking model. But yeah, super, super interesting game. I might try it, even though I'm not a roguelite person. So we'll see what happens.
Give it a go.
Vertigo 2. This is the highly anticipated sequel to Vertigo. Releases on the 30th on Steam. Basically, you start off deep underground in the reaches of Quantum Reactor 7, and you awaken to finish your journey home. So I know there's a lot of people that are really looking forward to that one. Super exciting. It's finally here. 5 days-ish,
we had the
depending on time
the show
zones.
as well.
We did, yeah. We brought him on. God, I swear, talking about kid genius though. He's one of those.
Yeah.
How old was he? He was 19 when he was with us, but he was 16 when he started. Went to Valve.
Holy crap!
Insane the amount of production this guy's been able to do. And the thing that really gets me is it's not just a plain vanilla game. He nails comedy at the same time.
Yeah.
As being very, very good at coding, graphics, all these other components all in one. It's one of those prodigal moments, So Vertigo 2, I would be playing if only just to know who had designed it, to see their next piece of artwork. But I love FPSs with a bit of bite, and the bad guys and all the guns and everything in this look just fantastic. So can't wait for the 30th. So excited for this.
Next up, we have Ghosts of Tabor. Tabor, am I pronouncing that right? Tabor?
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Tabor. The popular shooter that we've been seeing on Twitter lately. They had a giant launch party in Florida. I don't know if it's specifically Miami, but they launched recently, and basically VR, FPS, PvP, and PvE, inspired by games like DayZ and Escape from Tarkov. Currently, it's available on Steam and Quest 2. It's not out for PSVR 2 yet, but it's being worked on. It seems like probably like anything else. So this one's been talked about a lot, and I haven't actually had a chance to try it yet. But I was curious if any of you guys had when they had betas and whatnot.
No, I really wanted to because I've been begging for games like this for a long time, being a DayZ fan. But Escape from Tarkov, it was obviously one of the model games for this. So I'm very curious to try it. I don't know when I should try it. It's one of those that like Breachers was really good from the start, and I've heard very good things from people who've played it, but also that it's quite buggy. So it's like, do I get in now or when do we go? Maybe we can do a team thing of it. If you're interested in Adam, and if I can drag Jose in as well, maybe we do something like that and go as a team, see what it's like, and then talk about it after. But that's
it'd be super great.
Yeah.
Then, of course, I mentioned earlier, finally, we have Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Retribution for PSVR 2 and PC. So while it's not new, not new to the Quest anyway, it's new to those of us who may have been waiting for the Steam, or perhaps if you wanted to play it on PlayStation VR 2, now you can. So finally.
It is leagues better than the Quest build in terms of how it looks and plays. I'll say it is really good.
I'm glad I waited.
You did
anyway.
the right thing. You did the right thing.
Finally, I did want to give a shout out as well. I'm again was GDC crazy, so I haven't had a chance to play this yet. But Not for Broadcast VR. That's basically where you're sitting behind a desk. You get shown, network TV and stuff, and your job is to censor or uncensor, cause as much chaos as you want, the stuff that appears. So it originally was a flat screen game, but this has been brought to VR. It looks insane, and I'm probably going to not censor anything, so I don't know how great of a game it'd be for me, but I love it. It's the games that put all of the, you can tell there was so much recording time or just production behind just all the video takes involved in the game. I'm like, that's insane. So I love when games are able to do stuff like that. So that's another one that's came out while we were at GDC sometime, this week. So keep an eye out for that one as well.
That reminds me of there was that game that you were a Soviet border patrol guard, something with newspapers. Papers, please. Papers, please.
Something with newspapers.
That's how my brain works, Rowdy. I don't have AI supporting me just yet. But it does. It sounds like a Papers, Please kind of job where you're you're in charge of being the gatekeeper. That sounds interesting. What platform is that? Did you say?
Steam. I don't know if it's on Quest though. I'm pretty sure because I'm pretty sure for now Steam, but I'll update the show notes and stuff if I'm wrong.
That sounds good. Well, that's a good run. Is that the 5 you've got?
Yep. I guess honorable mention also to Galaxy Kart VR. Again, they just released on PlayStation VR 2 during GDC as well. No, they don't have Steam and Quest out yet, but that is still in the works.
Very good. Very good. Plenty to sink our teeth into. To be honest, this has not been a boring year for VR. This has been a really good year for VR so far.
Don't jinx it. Great.
Hey, AI's coming. It's going to fix everything and build us a great paperclip experience. That's all I know. So thank you very much, Adam, for holding the reins while Jose is away. Chat, it's time for your final rights. So write them in chat now. And if there's an event coming up, tell us, whether it's a virtual event or in-person event. We always like to know and get the crew along that. I know that Adam and I are both in need of a recharge, so while we jam our toes into that official Sony dock, the charging dock, hoping for the best, let me recap the show times. This podcast is live every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. The show starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. in the UK. We've got an audio version out on Intellectual iTunes, Spiffy Spotify, and Sweaty Betty SoundCloud. If you are watching this on Rewind, we encourage you to drop a comment below. And finally, let's tap chat and see what they've got left in their suggestion box. Adam, anything there in chat?
Yes, for a correction, Not for Broadcast is on Quest as well. It is a 15 gigabyte download. So
50? Holy
15,
shit.
not 50.
15. 15. Okay, that's not so bad.
Which is still, yeah. But
I think Saints comes in at like 12 gig or something, so it's a big game, but that just means it's got quality. At least it's not 335 gig like Medal of Honor. Cool, that's fine. Yeah, exactly. Sounds good. Okay, so everyone else in DIY VR, just jumping in just at the end of the show. Well, I'll tell you what. My plan for the next 2 weeks is to play a hell of a lot of VR, breathe some oxygen again, and transform into my final form before the next podcast. Thanks for joining us today. For all the hugs at GDC again. And we'll see you on the next FReality. Thanks, everybody. Ciao, ciao.
Yep.
Bye.